Peace, family. I hope all is well. I hope your afternoon, evening is going well. Kala is going to be on with us shortly. Again, Kala is going to be on with us shortly. I apologize about the delay. I had to take my son to soccer practice, and we didn't leave that till late. So we're supposed to roll at 8. Instead, we're rolling at 8:30. And like I said, Kala should be on here shortly. But guys, do me a favor. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Again, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And please visit Donfo.Africa, Donfo.Africa. We have several tours coming up. Sierra Leone, November 20th through December 3rd. Sierra Leone, November 20th through December 3rd. If you're interested in joining us in Sierra Leone, hit me up. Go to Donfo, Danfo dot Africa. Let me share the screen real quick. Donfo, Danfo dot Africa. So there's no confusion. So there's no confusion. So you guys know so you guys know exactly where to go as far as the site. Again, is Donfo, Danfo dot Africa. So we're rolling to Sierra Leone, we're rolling to Nigeria. In whatever it was, Nigeria, August 8th through the 17th. August 8th through the 17th, we are rolling to Nigeria. August 8th through the 17th, we are rolling to Nigeria. And we will love to have you. And with Sierra Leone, citizenship is available to those who qualify. Again, citizenship is available to those who qualify. So we will love to have you all in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone. We will love to have everyone join us. Come and join us and have a ball in Africa. Also, too, people are always asking, Dynas, where do you get the gear from? Where do you get the gear from? You'll go to Ileamir, ILEAMIR.com. Ileamir, ILEAMIR.com. Go and visit there. Go and visit there and grab your shirts, grab your gear, grab everything. Buy all the shirts, buy all the art, buy everything. Go to Ileamir.com. And I will greatly appreciate your support, you guys. You guys gotta rock a Africa is my Elisa Africa is my therapy shirt. You gotta at least rock a Africa is my therapy shirt. Again, you at least gotta rock a Africa is my therapy shirt. So go to ileamir.com. Here comes Kala. Kala's about to come on here in about a minute. And today's topic, we're gonna continue the discussion that we were having last night in regards to the 1980 coup. Yeah, buy everything. There you go, Delina. Buy this. Just buy the whole store. Buy the whole store out. Buy the whole store out. Do guys listen? Do me like these rappers do when they go to the Louis Vuitton store, the Gucci store, and they shut the store down and they be buying the whole store. So yeah, go and buy the whole store out. There we go. Thank you, Delina. Thank you, Delina. Yeah, buy the block. Buy the block. Go to Ilamir and buy the block, everyone. We'll greatly appreciate it. So we're gonna continue the discussion on Liberia. And did the 1980 Liberian coup, you know, did it set back the black race 50 or 100 years? Did it set it back, that coup? So let me bring on Colin.
What's going on, brother?
What's up,
Get my
bro?
Liberian in. I'm
Yeah, I
repping.
see it. I see it. I see it.
I'm repping tonight.
Mhm. So, Colin, the coup, did it set us back, the black race?
It's set the whole entire African continent back, and I'm gonna go and preface that by saying in context, and also the reason why I could say that right is because not only did it set Africa back, but Liberia was conveniently erased from history. You know, it plays such a when I was studying Liberia, and I said all these things that Liberia was a part of, the founding of the League of Nations, the signing of the vote to give Israel statehood, all these things, the Lancaster Agreement, the African Development Bank was founded by Liberia, the African Defense Forces, you know, that Elvis was trying to take credit for last night, you know, was conceived in Liberia, you know, under the True Wig Party. All these things. Now,
Okay,
also,
we'll call it. So O'Shea's shout out to O'Shea Du Jackson. Poor economic policy of the True Wig Party set Liberia back as
no, it's
well
not.
as.
Not that. With all the respect, my brother O'Shea, you know, he needs to talk to us people who know Liberian history. You know, people say stuff like growth without development, growth without that, and they put those talking points out there without understanding the nuances and what they're talking about. You know what they're talking about. I'm gonna talk about that tonight, and so maybe our brother O'Shea and all these other people will stop saying that. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Okay. The Liberian experiment came out of the success of the Freetown, okay, that happened like a couple of decades before, and then the Liberia experiment was let's find a place, right, for free blacks. Now, the idea of Liberia was already 200 years old before it was conceived, and who was it conceived by? Black people, free black people who lived, who had never been slaves, right? Who were Western educated, Western everything. And basically, they understood that you have the Native Americans and the Europeans coming over here, right? And so they rallied around this identity of being African. Now, when we say African, in their point, that means you're black man. You're a person biologically, phenotypically African. That distinguishes you from that was not Dole's fault. Okay, I'm gonna explain that. I'm gonna explain that. So much misinformation. Okay, like I said, that's what happens when you don't actually read books, you know, and you just look at what you read on Wiki and memes and stuff like that. But we're gonna break that down tonight. So 200 years, right? 200 years, the black people in America, right, had I would say 75%, 50% African culture, right? And 50% African retention culture, right? And like 50%, right? Western culture, American culture, you know, Creole culture, you know, so like this. That's what the African American was. He was culturally, had African retention. You see it in the music, the way we worship, praise, everything. We basically were still Africans, okay? And we also were basically westernized, you know, westernized. In other words, we believed in the Magna Carta. Okay, this is good, right? Everything I'm telling you right now is going to play out throughout the thing I'm talking about tonight. We believed in the Magna Carta, right? What is the Magna Carta? It was signed in the 1000 AD, which meant that the whole idea of the anti-feudalism, that means men have the right to a state. What is a state? Your liberty, your property, your body, land, all that stuff like that, and dominion. So when you have land, right, and your land is recognized and everything, you own that land, and then you could sell that land, you could build on that land, you could acquire equity on that land, and stuff like this. That was enshrined in the Magna Carta. It didn't always work out because European overlords didn't want the average person to have that, but that was the fight. The idea that people, the average person, should have right to own land. That's the ending of feudalism. Okay. So America fundamentally was written in it was based on the idea of the Magna Carta. That means you have the right to own land. That means when you have a deed to a property, right, it's not owned by a king, it's not owned by a thing. The only person you have to pay taxes to is the state. Other than that, the land is yours. Okay, so that's a culture that we understood in America, right? And that's why America, when people say I want land, they want to build. I can take out a loan on land. I can use the land as collateral. You know, all these things right here, which we for 200 years, right, the free black communities learned about. There were black communities in the United States, as far as Maine, as far in places like Weeksville, Brooklyn, places like Nantucket, Boston, Long Island, Fort Lee, New Jersey. These are all in New York State. There were old black communities that have been here since the 1500s. Now, the first African slaves came to America in 1619, as we know. But there were always black people in America called Atlantic Creole that came over with Europeans, Portuguese, and everything. And the first communities in Manhattan were actually black people, you know, in Manhattan. These were they call Atlantic Creoles. They were black people who lived in Europe, descendants of people who were prisoners or what they later called Shanghai. You know, the people who were Shanghai, I mean, you put on a ship and you worked, or just everything. Also, there was also not just in America, but also in the
Colin, we lost you. Uh-oh, man, they didn't shut college internet
Sorry about
down.
that. I had a call coming through. Hold up, Diane. I got a call. I suppose sister come out. She's called too.
Colin, why don't you call it on your iPad? Guys, hit the like button again, please. Please hit that like button. Hey, Brandon, did Bruce the family of Bruce really get that land?
Okay, so I'm setting this up where I understood that when people say the American colonization founded Liberia, they don't realize there were black people that lived in America for a couple of hundred years that was more than capable of running their own government. Okay, they were black, well said, and also these black communities, unlike the black communities back then, they were completely self-sufficient. They lived on the edges of swamps. They did trade. Paul Coffey came from that tradition. Paul Coffey was a trader. He was like one of the first black millionaires. Okay, he had owned ships and everything. He shipped goods up and down the east coast of the United States, and there were several other black people that were in the shipping trade. In the early 1800s, people don't realize this, right? There were black millionaires in Baltimore, right, that were in the shipping and shipbuilding trade. Okay, one of the things. So you think about this. When people think about America, they think like we're all on a plantation. We're all on a plantation, right? And then white people decided to send us to Liberia with no education, no nothing, no anything. Nothing could be further from the truth. There was black people. And they said, well, why'd they go? Because America, when the Constitution was written, everything was what appears as apparent was they were not a part of this country. You know, in other words, they didn't say it. That they said, look, we can't have the right to vote. And also the impending thing in America was the idea that you could, even though you're free, you're educated and everything like that, just like you and I you could be hit on the head, drugged, and sold into slavery. You had no rights. You had no access to the courts and everything. So the black community, when the United States was founded, right, began realizing that, you know, we losing rights. It's not like under the colonial America where the Spanish and all these other people, the Spanish colonies in Florida, Mississippi gave black people certain rights. They gave them land and stuff like that. Same thing with the French, you know, down in the Louisiana area. It was when the English took over the 13 colonies and everything, that the idea that black people, you know, would have no rights and everything, and still they had the black African Americans had more rights than they did when when George Washington and the United States Constitution was written. That's what was on everybody's mind was, what do we do about black people? The Constitution basically said that. Before that, black people were just like was equal to white people for the most part. They were British subjects, you know, and so therefore it's abundantly clear that America was founded on the idea of white nationalism. You know, white nationalism. And so therefore the response to that white nationalism and everything, that means you could be for Portugal, right? If you come over here, right, and adopt the American way, you're accepted as an American in a little while. Same thing. E pluribus unum. It had all the European symbols. Out of many, we are one. But the one thing that wasn't in the E pluribus unum was the African. And so therefore, with the intelligentsia at the time, and I'm talking about these late 1700s, 1800s and everything, people start saying it was a pair. See, people don't understand, at this time, America was a new country. America, when Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, right? People said that was the most the most egregious document ever written. How could a group of people, colonists, declare themselves independent from the King of England? How could they do that? Now, today, you know, a couple of years ago, we had an original copy of the Declaration of Independence outside of Central Library in Virginia Beach, right? And I went up there and looked at it. I still got pictures of it and everything. The original document that was signed was there on display. On the armed guards were there guarding and stuff like that, you know. But I'm saying to myself, back then, the majority of Americans, people in the United States thought, what was the colonies thought, are you insane? Are you insane? How are you going to fight a war against the most powerful military in the world? How are you going to basically be free? What do you mean by liberty? What is all this stuff? What are you talking about? Okay, what are you talking about? And so therefore, the idea of liberty, right? And we'll revisit that back too. And the idea that people, and also at the time, there were black people that basically who were free, right? That weren't enslaved, they weren't chained, right? Got a taste of this thing called liberty. You know, the fact that you can go as you please, you could own property, you could do whatever you want and everything like that. That was unheard of. This idea of liberty. Okay. And so therefore, when George Washington said, you know, we got to fight for this and everything, the world, you know, like 70% of the United States didn't support George Washington in the American Revolution. George Washington and all these other people went to war. And you look at George Washington, say what you want about him. He was a military genius. You know, how he went into Long Island, he snuck into the South and snuck back into the North and stuff like that, using spy networks and everything, using code signals and everything. And anytime he could have been caught and it could have been all over it and everything. And he fought. And then what happens was when he won, he has what he wanted. He had a free country. You know, he had a free country with liberty. At the same time, you know, they had slavery. But like I said, it was a white nationalist victory. Okay. Now, once that was what happened, people like his brother, Bushward Washington, right, start saying, "Oh, well, we have this free country, right?" And this is, I would tell black people like this: when black people talk about the Constitution, you know, these people that originally framed the Constitution never. I really believe that Chinese people, right? I do believe that Indians, anybody, right? They specifically did not want the black person, the descendant of slaves. Once you basically been are the slave descendant, right? You'll never be fully American. They knew that, and our ancestors back then knew that too. They said this country was founded on our blood. You know, we can never be one American. John Brown Worcestern, right? The first black man educated in the world, college educated in the world, right? And he came from Jamaica. He was half black, half white, right? But he was African, right, in his features, right? But he was obviously mixed race. Anyway, he went to Nova Scotia, right? And he was in Maine, and he was courted by white liberals at the time. This was in the early 1800s, right? And he graduated from Bodine College, right? And they said to him, "Wow, we're going to build this America." He said, "Look, you're basically telling me, right, that you are going to accept me." He goes, "Look, the way the prejudice has bred in America right here, it'll take 1,000 years to get rid of. You're never going to see my people and me as an equal. I'm an exception. I'm educated. And so I'm not going to let you use me to convince us for this American cause." He goes, "The only way the black man is ever going to have freedom is he has to return to Africa," which was a sentiment among a lot of black social clubs at the time, "and build a republic of his own." That's what John Brown Rushworth said. That's what all the early African American leaders said at the time. Most of the intellectuals in Black America for 200 years really believed that black people need to leave America, either return to Africa, go to Haiti, go to Canada, everything. We understood that unlike the colonies in South America, right, where the blacks and the people of color were the majority, right? America was a majority white country, okay? Everything, the lowest of the white had authority over black bodies in America, right? And the race and the white person could not be relied on. And we saw this in the Bacon Rebellion. I'm gonna get to Liberia in a second. In the Bacon Rebellion in the 1670s, right, where the Irish indentured service rose up with the blacks and the Indians and everything like that. And you know what they did? The British said, told the Irish and white, she said, "Lay down your arms." He goes, "Join our side," right? "Your skin is white. That's your uniform." And most whites said, "You know something? You're right." You know, and then that's what created the divide we have till this day today, where white people have this thing called whiteness. Okay, you can't get around that. You could talk all the philosophy, everything. That idea of whiteness is what binds white people, and that's what keeps this firewall between us and them in the line of demarcation between blacks and whites in this country. This idea of whiteness. The white poor still sees himself as white. Don't be fooled by these so-called racial allies, okay? The bottom line is a survival mechanism. You know, the white poor person will defend the white rich person, you know? He'll, Lyndon B. Johnson said, you know, you get the poorest white to think he's better than the black person, and you can steal from him all the time. That's what you had. So it's in 1816, right after the Haitian rebellion and stuff like that, there was a man that was friends of Paul Coffey named Finley, right? He convened a thing, and he's given all the credit for the formation of the American Colonization side. He's given most of the credit in history, which is not true. It was Paul Coffey. Paul Coffey was taking people to Freetown for a couple of decades before this. Okay, so Finley came up with an idea, right? Just like the Declaration of Independence. It's crazy. It's insane. And he said, look, the Coffee went over there and had success. But the problem is the British did not want these black people from the United States settling in Freetown because they thought there would be a threat, a competition with the British Empire, the British traders. So they forbade Paul Coffey from engaging in business and commerce. Think about this. The British, Paul Coffey helped found Freetown, right? But he was not allowed to engage in trade. He could settle there. You can see, so you're free to come here, but you can't enter into trade, politics, anything. And people are like, well, why are we going to do this when well, we might as well stay in America? We're going to be disenfranchised, you know? And so therefore, that's a common theme. So when the American Colonization Society was finally formed, right? It was formed by Quakers. There was two different sides of it, right? There were Quakers who hated slavery, and there were slave owners who their target was free blacks. They said free blacks inside the United States was a threat to white nationalism, you know? And so in other words, even though, and this same thing would play out and because of the Civil War in America. The idea that they thought that free blacks in places like Boston and all these other places, right, gave slaves in America, their slaves, hope. And with that hope, right, that's hard to continue slavery if you have black people in America free. So you have to get rid of the free black. And then another leg of this was black people who wanted to return, okay? There was black people who wanted to return, right? Quakers and other people that hated slavery, right? Abolitionists, right? And then there was also slave owners who wanted to get rid of free blacks, right? Nothing about Liberia had anything to do with sending slaves over here. That didn't come till much later, right? Liberia was founded to give free black people and to protect America, right, from the free blacks. So free blacks were plotting rebellions and stuff like that and helping slaves escape. You have maroon communities all over America where slaves would have sanctuary and everything. So to rid the United States of the population, this problem, right, you had to go to send them off this continent, right? So white people have complete hegemony over the black people that's left here. And so you have to get rid of this problem population, the educated black people, you know, the successful black people. Because if you have black people that's successful in America, it shows slaves that there's something else better in their life than being a slave. And in order for a slave to work, he has to believe that the only thing he can be is a slave. So if you have black people walking around town with a suit and tie on and everything, and he's free and he sees somebody like them, that's a threat to that's going to cause him to rebel. And so getting rid of the free black population is why Liberia was not founded, right? It was a colony. You know, that's what gave the thing. You say, well, the ACS founded. No, they didn't. Liberia was founded by the people men like Hillary Teague, men like Joseph Jenkins Roberts, you know, this guy named Drayton, R. Ford McGill, you know, of the McGill clan and everything, founder of the Chesapeake Liberia Trading Company. All these men, Elijah Johnson, Randolph Cooper, all these men were founding fathers of Liberia. They're not written about in history because most people think the ACS was like this. The ACS was full of incompetence. When they invested in Liberia, it was like, you know what the ACS was run by? Think of Hunter Biden. You know, hey, you know, we got something for you to do. Send the Negroes over there. This guy Stockton, these guys weren't the best admirals that put the gun to King Peter's head. These guys weren't the best diplomatics and everything. They were flunkies. And so therefore, they made the situation on the coast with the natives even worse. Okay. So what happened was this, right? What happened was this. When the colony was set up, right? We'll skip over the conflict, right? When the colony was set up, right? People that were original colonists, right, realized that it was nothing more than the colony was nothing more than a prison, a penal colony. It was run like a penal colony. The ACS controlled all the food. They had the store. They built the general store, everything. And so they ran they tried to initially run the place like they owned it, like it was back in America. And then they would basically do things like go to the natives, right, and have the natives threaten the colonists, right, to keep them in line. Anytime the colonists said we want more freedom and autonomy, right, suddenly there's some native uprising that they got to squash, and everybody got to like this. This is what they did. So after a while, the people decided, you know something, we're not getting anywhere with the British, the natives, everything. We need to declare our independence. After 25 years, right? They had some of the best minds and everything. And also, it was not just the American Colonization Society, right? There was the Mississippi Colonization Society. And another thing completely separate from Liberia was Maryland. Now, to me, Maryland was the most advanced of all the territories that thing. In fact, the Maryland colony probably rivaled Cape Town and on the continent as far as like commerce and civilization, right? Maryland and Harper City and Cape Palmas and all these other people, Hoffman River civilization and all these other places right there, beautiful civilization. Probably overlooking the bluffs of the Cape Palmas lighthouse and stuff like that. You would think it was paradise. It was probably the most advanced, well-run colony in all of Africa. It was profitable, had commerce and everything. They had a lot of problems with the Gribbos and everything, but it wasn't as intense as the problems in the Monrovia, Macerado region. And so therefore what you had was, okay, after Liberia declared its independence, right? They still had a problem, right? They had territories that the British were encroaching on to the north, right? The Galenas. And they had the French encroaching to the south, right, in the hinterland. Liberia's territory that you see now is only half of what it was before. And so therefore what they did was they made a proclamation proclaiming all that territory, right? Here's a problem, here's a conflict, right? They proclaimed territory, right? But there was people already there, right? And so therefore what Liberia had to do was become a republic, okay? Once it became a recognized republic, right, and it got recognition, right, it could basically state, this is our territory. This falls under our sovereignty. This territory. It does not mean that even though it falls under your sovereignty, it does not mean that you control it. Having a claim, recognized, and controlling a territory are two different things. So you had a vast majority of Liberian territory that was claimed, but it wasn't occupied because you got people living there. It's like, who the hell are you? You coming here telling us what to do? You telling us like this, and rightfully so. They're like, why should we listen to you? And so, and like when Benjamin Anderson went to Massaru, they basically, from when I heard early history, right, Samori Toure, the famous Songhai warrior, right, took refuge in like early Liberia, and they was, trying to work something out against the French. And so there was these people in the region, Africans, that were anti-French. They saw what Samori Toure was going through, right? And then there was some that were anti-Monrovia, I hate the term, Americo-Liberian. And there was people that was anti-British and everything, right? And so people had to choose a side, okay? And what happened was the people that chose the French side, right? They didn't understand that by choosing the French, that they were part of the British Empire. They thought that the French and British were trying to liberate them. They were convinced that the French and British were trying to liberate them by those people on the coast that's telling them what to do. But once once they signed the deal with the French and they understood that they started seeing white men come to the country, taking their land and whatnot, and everything like that. So we didn't sign up for this. Oh, yes, you did. You know, you signed up for us for protection. That's what a protectorate is, right? Against Liberia. And so therefore now you're part of France. You're a French protectorate. And that's what happened. And then thank God the Massaquoi king sided with Liberia reluctantly. He had to give up his kingdom, right? To become, and they gave him a government position and stuff like that, but he had to give up his kingdom and recognize the sovereignty of the state. And this is a theme I'm gonna keep talking about tonight, right? It was about recognizing the sovereignty of the state. Okay. And once you recognize the sovereignty of the state, you became part of Liberia. Your kids can go to school. You got certain amount of money allotted to the treasury and stuff like this. You become citizens. You have rights and all these things like this. But here's the problem. There's a lot of people, right, even to this day, that and this is not just Liberia. This is all over Africa, right? We have this thing where we do not, as Black people, right? We like government when it's giving us stuff, right? But we don't understand, right? To what is given, much is required, right? There's a social contract. If the government's going to protect your borders, protect you, and stuff like that, because they say, well, what did Liberia do for the people? One is there were many wars in interior between the Golas, Mandingos, and stuff like that. That created instability. When President Howard took office, right, he just made clear to these the paramount chiefs. He said, "I'm going to bring you in, and you're going to have payroll and everything. You have a responsibility to your territory." And there's another myth that the American white oppress the people. Actually, there's always been an educated class in each indigenous population, right? And there's always been what we call a paramount chief in each territory that basically saw the day-to-day life of the average person, because they handle things like, except for serious cases, right? They had their own trials, and punishment and stuff like this in the territories, okay? And that's what it was. Now, the whole thing is that was supposed to be temporary, because they said, okay, there's going to be a time when the people reach a certain level of education and civilization that they were going to become states or counties in the republic. And right now, they're just a territory. So when people say, well, there's no taxation or representation, you can't have representation if you don't have an allegiance, or you don't understand the framework of, again, it's like Puerto Rico, okay? Puerto Ricans cannot vote in the presidential election but they're part of the United States. You see what I mean? They have no representation, right? Because they're a territory. Now, if they became a state as an entity, as a geopolitical entity, as a state in the United States, then they get all the benefits of state. So therefore, what I'm saying is Liberia tried to establish an orderly process of integration of the indigenous people into the fold of Liberia. But all that does not matter, because it's been erased from history by people, they didn't do this, and they don't take time to actually go to the library, right? Now, not stuff you see online, stuff like that, not videos you see on YouTube and everything. Go to the library, right? And I'll give you several books that you could actually do your research, right? And come to a conclusion when the facts are, if your reading comprehension is good, the facts will bear out with it, for itself, okay? So therefore, Liberia, right, by the time of the early 1920s, right, it had mastered the science of government more than any other country on the governments on the continent. They had brought peace from the interior. The Vai tribe signed the treaty. Benjamin Anderson, the great explorer to the interior, brought the Fulani tribes and everything, and Lofa and everything, and Nimba and all these other places right here into the fold of Liberia. The only problem was the Crew Coast, the southern region of Liberia, and the Crew Coast. Why? Because we have Crew tribes that didn't have any real allegiance to Liberia. They were going between Liberia, Sierra Leone, and all along the coast and everything. So therefore, that Crew country was the only spot that thing. And people say, Crews are just resistance, but they didn't. That's the one area the government didn't really penetrate, right? And that would prove a liability. But the Liberians stood firm, and they basically brought the Crew into the fold of Liberia, recognized Liberia's sovereignty. It was done by gunpoint. But the whole thing is this. So what I asked a question when people say, well, yeah, they hung 54 Crew chiefs and whatnot. Hey, look, the bottom line, if they were acting as agents, like people say, they're agents. They were acting as agents of the British Empire. Whatever legitimate grievances they had, right, they could have took it to Monrovia. But instead, they were basically trying to usurp the government, and they hoisted the British flag on Liberian soil. So what if you're a sovereign country, right? And the bottom line, you say, look, we're a sovereign country, we're a republic, right? And someone in the territory, right, says we're going to hoist the British, an enemy. The British all the time, right? The British and the French, the Portuguese were always on this coast manipulating tribes against tribes and everything, right? And but the whole thing is with the Liberian government, like you're not going to do that to us, right? In 1865, they passed the port of entry law. The port of entry law meant that you couldn't just show up on the coast. If you're a European vessel or whatever, you can't just show up on the coast. There's ports of entry. So in other words, basically what Liberia did was it impounded British ships and every ship that didn't want to go to do the port of entry and do the customs and do this and everything. They would impound this ship. Liberia acted like a republic, right? It collected duties and everything like that. It had a developed postal system, and it had all these things that set up that basically a republic function. It wasn't just some territory. A republic needs what? Infrastructure, basic infrastructure, military, roads, and commerce, taxation, all these things that are laws, and all these things that a republic does and gives people protection. And you say, well, how was this possible, right? Okay, here's the thing. When Liberia was set up, right, the people that lived on the Monrovia were the original descendants of the free black people in America. Those are the Monrovians people, okay? And there was a different class of black people. I know there was a color thing going on for the most part, and everything. The upriver people were descendants of the ex-slaves and everything. They were mostly full-blooded African Americans. They lived and they built farming communities. But the thing is, though, those upriver communities, right, surpassed the Monrovia class in wealth, and that's why the True Wig Party was founded. The True Wig Party was founded in the 1870s, I believe, that by Edward Wilmot Blyden, right, who was a full-blooded, he was Igbo by ancestry. He was from Akron, Ohio, and Newark, Ohio, excuse me. And Edward Wilmot Blyden, no, excuse me, he was from the Virgin Islands. Edwin James Roy was from Newark, Ohio, right? And Blyden was from the Virgin Islands. Both of these men were Igbo descent in Liberia. They're full-blooded African Igbo descent. And so therefore, Blyden was considered the most educated man and one of the most educated men in the world at the time. E.J. Roy was considered one of the most wealthy men. He created a trading company. He bought a fleet of ships, right? And he was shipping Liberian cotton, coffee back to the United States, and he made a fortune. And he owned so much land and stuff like that. So he was a rich man. And so therefore, he began to challenge the what we call the Republican Party of Liberia. These were basically most of people who have mixed race ancestry and everything like that. And Stephen Allen Benson, who wasn't mixed race, but he ran with that crowd. And so therefore, they formed the True Wig Party. At first they called the True Black Man's Wig Party. In other words, there was a tension between people who are mixed race ancestry, right? Because we don't see, it wasn't African American like we know it now. People we're just one people. It wasn't like that back then. People who were free blacks didn't really socialize with black people who were descendants of slaves, slave descendants, And so that's why I said when the people melt in Philadelphia to denounce colonization and everything, these were mostly mixed race black men, right? Talking about we can't leave our people. And basically, like Bird showed you, that these people had nothing to do with each other. There was no thing. And this is going to play out even to this day, right? Where you got people who hang on to the black identity, right? But they don't really have any association with the mass of black people. So what I'm saying is the people in the upriver were the direct descendants of the plantation class, the plantation people. But they went upriver, right? And they owned farms. They were given 15 acres of land, and they were given tools, everything like that. And they basically always came over to Liberia with 2 or 3 skills: blacksmiths, weaving, or whatever skill they had, right? And they farmed, right? So these people worked hard, right, and built independent communities. They had their own town. Each town had their own town halls and stuff like this, right? So get this, and this is going to refute a lot of stuff that's said about Liberia today. They mostly lived isolated from Monrovia. So in other words, they had everything they needed in those towns like Clay Ashland, Edina, Brewerville, and all these other places that I visited when I went to Liberia. And they basically were independent of they produced their own food. They had their own commerce, their own trade system. They had their markets and everything. They traded with the indigenous people and everything. The indigenous people went to school with them and everything. They would live as neighbors with the indigenous people and everything. And so therefore a culture developed that was uniquely Liberian. It was indigenous. It was settler culture and everything. It was people from the Caribbean. It was recaptured Africans all living and mingling together as one black site in those settlements up there. And so they really didn't need Monrovia. Okay. Now here's the thing: when Liberia became unified, right? The whole idea was, well, we're going to develop the interior. We're going to develop all the interior territories, just like the Monrovia. And what happened was the people that came from the hinterland who didn't have a history in Liberia, right? And they flooded into Monrovia. That's why Monrovia is an overcrowded city. And I asked the question, why are they in Monrovia where they could be back in their own towns building, right? Like their original settlers. The original settlers, they were sent up river, they were sent down the coast and everything, and they stayed there and they thrived. They thrived. You go to Sino, Greenville. Greenville had a connection with Greenville in Mississippi. Liberia was directly connected with Greenville, Mississippi, and Mississippi. You look at the streets and everything, had its own pipe-borne water tower and everything like that, Same thing with Maryland, these people went down there. The people in Maryland didn't care about Monrovia. In fact, Maryland is where Tubman was from. Maryland became so powerful that it basically rivaled Monrovia, and the same thing could have happened, right? The same thing could have happened with Nimba and all these other Grangita and all these other places like that. But the thing is, though, the majority of people wanted to come to the coast. They wanted to come to where the action was, the excitement was. And that's why when people say, oh, they were oppressed. If they were oppressed, why did they move from the interior where they were at, where they had the advantage and everything, to the coast, to Monrovia, to all these other cities on the coast? It doesn't make any sense. Because if you look at the situation right now, the people that's successful in Liberia, right? The ones that stayed on their land and stayed like that, they're still successful to this day all over the world. The people that basically don't have anything are the people that basically, oh yeah, I'm coming from this town. Well, when's the last time you've been to your home village or your hometown and everything? Never have. As a matter of fact, a lot of them were born in Monrovia and a lot of them were born overseas. But yeah, you call yourself I'm representing this territory. I'm representing this territory for this and everything. So that's just a brief overview of Liberian history, and I'm gonna get to this part where about the government of Liberia. Now, one of the things that I didn't agree with in Liberian history was the minerals and stuff like that was in the interior, and it's right and wrong on both sides. The bone mines, all these other places, like the mining companies that were in the interior where the indigenous people live, right? But if you look at it, right, the people who stayed in Yepaka and stuff like that did really well. They lived near the mining concessions and everything. They did really well. The people that moved to Firestone and everything like that, they built communities and everything. They did pretty well. The thing is, though, I believe that the government should have had a localized and decentralized government. That would have solved the problem. If the indigenous people would have had, right, their own local governments and everything with their own tax base and everything, right, that would have worked out good. And that's where Tubman and all these people dropped the ball. Now, at the same time, right, how can we say that when, like I said, the paramount chiefs, the people leading a thing, didn't want that? They said, look, man, if we do a federal system and everything like that, then we're going to lose out. There's no need for us anymore. So people were out on both sides, the elite on both sides were out for their own best interests. It wasn't in the interest of the paramount chiefs and all these other people to basically allow for a decentralized government. Okay. Decentralization means the local people have their local jurisdiction, right? You have your own commerce, tax base. You give out licensing and permits and everything like that, same way you do here in America, right? You don't go to the president of the United States and say, you know something, I want to open up a gas station over here. I got to talk to the president of the United States. No, you go find out what the local laws are, and that local laws have thing. There was no localities and authority in Liberia. Because remember something, it's still people wanted Liberia to basically magically catch up with the rest of the world. Because they missed it. Look, and also what they were dealing with was a population was largely illiterate, and Liberia took a lot of its budget, right, to send people overseas to get educated, and they built their colleges, right? They built the first major college in West Africa, the College of West Africa, Liberia University, Bricks University. These were built by African Americans that came there. And Tubman University, all these people and you look at some of the early Liberian people, right? There's a difference between, you could tell these people were really, really well-rounded and sharp. It's unlike black people in America, we focus on really Afrocentric stuff. When you talk to a Liberian, as educated and everything back in the days and everything, you talk to an old school Liberian, he tends to be more world focused, right? He'll tell you about different philosophies.
Hey, yo, Kyle, I'm gonna start opening up the lines.
They don't mind reading.
Kyle, I'm gonna start
things
open.
that's
Can you hear me?
outside of the
Can you hear
bounds
me?
of
Can you hear me, Kyle? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
woke black
Can you hear me?
people do.
Can you hear
And
me?
so therefore
Can you hear me?
they have a different
Hello?
world view of
Hello?
the world than this
Hello?
African American. Why?
Hello?
Because
Hello? Can you hear me?
African
Hello?
American
Hello?
made the transition
Hello? Can you
from
hear me? Can
slavery
you hear
to
me?
Mafa to America.
Kyle, can you hear
The
me?
Liberians
Hello?
made their way back across the Atlantic, and they were born on African soil, right? So that sort of triumph, psychological triumph, right, is what they have to go with, right? They have this idea that they are like the chosen people. They're the
Kyle,
chosen
can
of
you hear
God.
me?
They're
Kyle,
chosen
can you
people.
hear me?
Yo,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
you're muted, Dice.
No, I'm not muted. That's you.
Huh?
I'm opening up the lines. That's you. Everybody else can
Huh?
hear me. You can't hear me.
I can't hear you.
Everybody else can hear me. You can't hear me. It's you. It's you. It's you.
Hey,
I'm
Dice,
about to open up the
I
line.
can't hear you.
Leave and come back.
Dice, I can't hear you.
Leave and come back. Everybody else can hear me. You can't hear me.
Dice, I can't hear you.
Okay, leave and come back. You can't hear me. Everybody else can hear me. Guys, links to the chat room. Links to the chat room. If you want to call in, go ahead and call in. Here we go. Here goes Elvis.
Hey, Dice, I can't hear you.
Elvis, can you hear me,
I can't
Elvis?
hear.
Okay, leave and come back. Elvis,
I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah.
I
Okay,
can't hear
Elvis.
Dinas.
Okay, leave and come back,
I can't
Colin.
hear Dinas.
Leave and come back. Go and come back. Go and come back.
Oh, okay. Leave, come back.
Yeah. Oh, hold on, Elvis. Wait for Carl to come back. But go ahead, Elvis. Unmute yourself.
All right. Yeah, I mean, most of what he's saying is true. During those days, I agree with most of what he's saying. But the topic tonight is the coup. What led to the coup? That's the issue here tonight. So when we had a conversation yesterday, he was talking about how it wasn't justified and
It wasn't justified, Elvis. It wasn't justified. It wasn't.
What makes you say that?
Because what they did was barbaric, and I want you to show me another time in history where Africans rounded up other Africans, tied them to a pole on public TV, and executed them. It was barbaric. It was barbaric.
Yes, that part of it. The part about the execution on the beach.
And again, Liberia has after the coup, Liberia has not progressed. Period.
They have not recovered.
Period.
My point here is there was a reason why there was a coup.
Did Liberia? Hold on, Colin. Did Liberia benefit from the coup? Yes or no?
They didn't have enough time. There was a civil war.
42 years.
There was a
42 years.
No, there was.
Yeah.
No,
You
right
caused
after
it.
that.
You caused it. They were the
There was a civil war.
Hold on, Colin. Elvis. Liberians are running around in the streets, practicing cannibalism, raping people. I mean, do you want me to continue?
No, go ahead. I hear you. Go ahead.
I mean, come on. Is that progression?
And the bottom line is, Dynas, man, When I talk to a lot of young Liberians and whatnot, man, they are freaking livid. They said these people took our history. When they find out how Liberia was before that coup and whatnot, they're angry because they know. I'll be honest with you, man. They know they got no future. You know, they realize you got right now. Here's another thing, right? Elvis will try to justify, right? The Liberian congressmen and senators only did like two-year terms, whatever, like that. After the coup, right, when they wrote the Constitution, Amos Story, which you talked about, right, they gave themselves 10-year terms. Now you got the what you call people who are so entrenched in power, right? The Liberian legislatures, the poorest country, one of the poorest in the world, make more on the average than the U.S. congressman does. You know, and so therefore, but Elvis would justify this. You know, people look. My brother-in-law, right? This guy, man, I don't want to put his business out there, right? These guys are educated, everything like that. They can't make a living. You know, do you know what the average Liberian makes, or the Liberian military makes? About $120 a month. That's dangerous. You mean telling me you haven't learned anything in history if you don't have a well-paid military, but all the money goes to the fat cats and everything. This is what they had a coup for. It had nothing to do with no liberation. It had to do with them thinking that the government is a way to eat. That's why the Liberian, all he thinks about is getting in power, getting in the government. That's all he wants to do. Nothing else. And that's the truth.
Can I chime in?
Go ahead, Kofi.
Well, hold on. Go ahead, Kofi. Go ahead, Kofi.
I feel like Liberia was fragile from the beginning, and Liberia could have had its coup any of the other presidencies. It's just that this one so happened to be where the Russians was gaining influence in West Africa since the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah and to Liberia's sovereignty in the 80s. So, you know, I feel like Doe was coerced into overthrowing the government at the time, and they were even bragging that it was backed by the U.S.
On one hand, Coach, check this out. On one hand, right, when you corner them, oh man, the CIA, they'll say stuff like the President Tolbert said a white hand killed Tolbert and whatnot, you know? Oh yeah, okay. So see, bottom line, you're dealing with people that when you talk about just really just children. You know how children, you know, you go out there and you say, Did you steal the cookie? No, I didn't steal the cookie, right? He got crumbs all over his face one night, and I didn't do it one night. He made me do it, you know? The bottom line is this. Like I said, this thing, there's American Liberians, what you want to call them that, made mistakes, right? One of the mistakes was instead of freaking dealing with the Paramount Chiefs and completely crushing that whole indigenous stuff like this, right? They propped up the Paramount Chiefs, right? Which I know you love, Elvis, right? The Paramount Chiefs were on the payroll of the government, right? And nothing, the bong mines would not be there if it wasn't for the Paramount Chiefs, right? Am I right or right? Am I right or wrong?
You're right. Go ahead.
Right. You know I'm right. right? So bottom line, you guys conveniently leave your role in your own suffering, because the bottom line is, wherever Liberia was, there was plenty of indigenous people who was benefiting from it. You know, just like Black America right now. If you got people out there talking about, oh, Black America's messed up. Well, look who's benefiting from your demise. Go look at the Maxine Waters and all these other people that's benefiting from your demise. You know, but the white man, you know, we're so amped on the white man that we don't see that we got people right among us that's doing us harm. You got indigenous people right now who are in power. Do you think they give a damn about the average indigenous person? No. That's just something you say to get elected, right? Because people will fall for emotion. And unlike other countries in Africa who's going forward, right? Liberia, right? The first republic is going backwards. Because people won't say, you know something? We got something beautiful here. We got a beautiful country. Let's put our differences aside and go forward. But I'm aggrieved. I'm this, that, and the other thing. And I'm shocked at you, Elvis, right? Because you was at the Hogarth family, right? They're American Liberians, right? And you basically talk about American Liberians, and you are tethered to that legacy, the great Hogarth family.
I'm trying to tell you, Colin. It's not a hatred between American Liberians.
What you're doing
is
fusing divisiveness.
No. You're not understanding. It's not a hatred between us. You know, I grew up in Liberia. I grew up in Congo Town. I was friends with a lot of American Liberians. I have
Hey,
people in
you
my
grew up
family
in
who
Congo Town.
are married to my family. The
You
point
have
that I'm trying to tell
resentment.
you is these people, the native Liberian was aggrieved. They didn't just jump out the sky and wanted to remove the government.
Hold on. Let me
They
say
were
something.
marginalized. They were
Tyler, let
marginalized.
him finish.
How are they
Tyler, let
If
him
you
marginalized?
finish.
ask a lot of
Tyler, let him
Liberian,
finish.
yes, if you ask a lot of native Liberian, they will tell you the same thing. Do you
Well,
know
let
in the
me ask you,
wait? Do you know in the city of Monrovia, before sun goes down, native people have to go back to their slums in West
well,
Points and places like
when
that.
was
Kick them
this?
out of they kick them out of the
When was this?
city. Do
When
you
was this?
know that?
Elvis, when was this? Elvis, when was this?
In the
You got proof?
60s,
I never
in the
heard this before.
60s, in the 70s, in the early 70s. What are you
Oh,
talking
that,
about?
that's a lie. I'm not buying that.
That's not a
I'm
lie.
not
What
buying.
are you
I'm not
saying?
buying that.
That's
Okay, but hold
true.
on,
When people
Kyler, hold
say
on. But
stuff.
Elvis, I go to the city of Monrovia now, and it's controlled and ran by Lebanese. So again, the question is, how did Liberia benefit from the coup in 1980?
First, people wanted.
Hey, listen, I
No,
was in Monrovia. I was in
yeah,
downtown
they
Monrovia.
wanted to
All the
be
shops,
enfranchised to
everything.
vote. They wanted to be
Elvis, hold on,
enfranchised to
Elvis.
vote.
Hold on, Elvis. So again, all the major shops are controlled by Lebanese. Damn, the Liberians are selling the same shit on the side of a road in a little kiosk, even that. So again, I'm just trying to figure out. The question is, okay, you guys had grievances, you guys were upset. Again, how did Liberia improve? How was this 1980 coup a win for the people of Liberia? That's
Oh,
my
win for the
question.
politicians.
For most people, it was about voting rights. They wanted to be able to vote.
Hold up. They had, you see, that's another lie. That's another lie. Liberians had the right to vote. The whole thing was.
No, what was it? What was the caveat? What was the caveat?
Hold on.
You had to own property, right? You had to own property to vote, and a lot of native Liberians didn't have property.
Hold up. That's not true. Well,
What do you
first of
mean that's
all,
not true? That's true, Kyla. What are you saying? That's true.
Yo, check this out. Elvis. Let me land, right? Let me
Go
land.
ahead.
First of all, if you realize, and I set this up perfectly, right? I talked about two different versions of land ownership, right? There's the Magna Carta, right, which is deeded land, and which means you're registered right now. That America had the same system, right? People vote and stuff like that. And presidents, elections, everyone can vote. But when you talk about legislation like that, yeah, you have to. If you are a resident of, right, do you know if there was a lot of people in Liberia who weren't even born in Liberia, right? Are you supposed to give them the right to vote? Are we supposed to give the Mexican people coming across the south border vote? You had to be a recognized citizen. If you were a citizen, had your card, everything like that in Liberia, you had to vote. But there's
Vote
a
for
lot
who?
of people.
Vote for whom? Who would you vote for?
Let's say though. You said vote.
No. Pause right there. There was only one party. You could only vote for the True Wig Party. So it's not a true democracy when you talk about voting. The people didn't have the option to vote for their own party of choice. They didn't have that option.
It was the People's Party by Thomas J. Faulkner.
Check this out.
Yeah, and when he lost that election, that's when he took King to court for that Fernando Pool issue.
Well, check this out. Let me land with this. Right now, there's no one going to defend, right, like this. Because I know Liberians. You got Liberians love.
So you're going to admit that, right? That was an injustice on the part of the American Liberians by not having multi-party democracy, right?
Hold on. I admit that, right? But here's the problem.
All right. That's just one of the grievances. That's one of the grievances right there. Not having a true democracy in the country. One party state.
Elvis, I agree with you on that, right?
Right.
But here's the thing, right? Liberians, right, really believe, right, when you elect a president, that's like a king, like they do George Weah right now. Oh, George Weah. They didn't understand that and don't even understand. You have a legislature. So basically, he said, no, you can't do that, President. Guess what? I'm gonna rule by decree. And they said we can't do that, like this. So Liberians didn't even understand. Okay, we put Doe in power and everything like that. He's ruled everything like decree. How are you gonna call that a democracy?
They didn't put Doe in power. Liberians didn't put Doe in power. It was a coup. It was a military coup. It was a military coup. They took over. They took power.
Yeah, but hold on. But Elvis, you said last time. Hold on, Carla. Hold on. But Elvis, you said last time that when the coup happened, the majority of Liberians were happy.
Yes, that's a known fact. Ask any native Liberian; they will tell you that. Or you think I'm lying?
No, I believe you.
You were living in Congo Town, man, living it up, man. You were living in Congo Town. So what I'm saying is this: you have a lot of native Liberians who only wanted power. That's all. Oh, here she is. Oh, let me shut up.
Hey, y'all.
My teacher's on.
Oh, come on. I'm not a teacher. I'm a
You'll
student.
see, she
How y'all doing?
won't accept me as a
Hey, how are
student,
you?
you know. She
Good.
won't accept me as a student. But I humbly say Kyle Flama is my teacher. I shut up when she talks, man.
Right.
Man, this show is so important. I want to thank you guys for doing this. It's extremely important for this dialogue to continue to happen. I was listening to all sides, and I think that for me, I don't really see as much of a disagreement as I see that multiple things can be true at the same time in the same place. So, I'm sorry, what's your name? Kofi? What he's saying and what Kala's saying, what everyone's saying is correct. It's part of the problem. There's multiple factors that led up to this coup. I think what happened during the Cold War, and it wasn't just in Liberia, but in Latin America and the Caribbean, what usually happened during the Cold War is that conflicts were exacerbated. One of the things that I've recently started to realize as I study the CIA papers is how much was really being orchestrated behind the scenes. And, people think, oh, you're crazy, it's a conspiracy theory. No, these things are documented. It's not by coincidence that there was this massive disinformation campaign in Liberia simultaneously with Latin America, simultaneously with, the Caribbean with Maurice Bishop. A lot of these people like Tolbert, Maurice Bishop, Sankara, these people were targeted by disinformation campaigns, and their own citizens that they were fighting for were weaponized against them. This is a fact. This is not somebody's conspiracy theory. That being said, it would not have been possible. None of the demise of African people would have been possible if there were not African co-conspirators, willing agents who were taking advantage of the situation and fighting to gain from the demise of their fellow citizens or their fellow countrymen.
Thank you.
So we have to look at it in a balanced way. So when people talk about the CIA involvement, this is not myth. This is fact. There's been a lot of declassified information that clearly points to that. I mean, that is it is a war strategy to destabilize people who could possibly have been aligned with communists. That's just what it is. You study political science in this country, you're going to be taught that. You study military science in this country, you're going to be taught that. So that's not a wild conspiracy. That is the strategy. It has been the strategy of the U.S. government for a very long time. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I really appreciate this.
Kyle, I want to ask you a question. Sister Kyle, I want to ask you a question. There's this common theme, right? I want you to talk about this, right? And I tell you, did you hear it first when I was talking about? And I got that from you. How the American colonization set this up as a Liberia as a prison colony, basically, and then people wanted liberty and also the fact that people give the American colonists all this credit for Liberia, and they omit our founding fathers like Hillary Teague, even the Vibe people, the tribe, and all this stuff like that. I wish you could come on, right, and with Dynast, right, and do a show, and she will bring it home, about this,
So that's a confusion, and I'll just be really quick to just kind of address it. But what I found is that we've been so miseducated, and so we have so much internalized this concept of our own inferiority that we look to Europeans to legitimize us and to legitimize and validate us. So a situation where you have a mass deportation effort occurring, when in 1822, when Ayers and Stockton went down the coast looking for land, they did not carry a single repatriated African or African American with them. They had educated people that they left at Sherbrooke that were more educated than they were.
Yep, I said that.
You understand? More educated than they were. They left those Black people at Sherbrooke to go negotiate with sovereign Africans in their absence because it wasn't about them. ACS was a business venture. And because there were so many educated African Americans amongst those early settlers, in comparison to who was settled in Sierra Leone, I believe, my theory is, that is the reason they had the audacity to assert their independence in 1847. This was not initiated by the US government or by the ACS. This was definitely, and I mean, these people wrote things down. They wrote their thoughts. This was definitely the independence of Liberia. The sovereignty of Liberia was orchestrated. It was the brainchild of African Americans. Let no one fool you. It was not given to anyone. They had no choice. You know, it was either that or continue. Excuse me, I've got children. It was either that or you continue. Sweetheart, mommy's on a live. I'll be right there. So it was either that or you continue to wave the American flag when your brethren were still enslaved in the United States. 1847, slavery had not been abolished yet. So these things bothered them. These things outraged them. They angered them. And that was some of the catalyst, not to mention the ill treatment that they were getting from some of these agents from the American Colonization Society, both black and white, you know, but that's a different conversation. I just wanted to respond briefly to that. But thanks for taking my call. Thanks for the show.
Diane, are you committed to coming back on Diane's show, doing a show with Diane sometime?
It's up to him. It's his platform.
Diane, man, please.
Of course, anytime.
Okay.
Anytime. You Colin put me in contact with you anytime.
Take care.
Hey, please, man. That she right there, she's like and also living voice, so she's American. Like she is Vi. I think she's Vi and Fulani, you know?
No, she's Mono. She's Mono from she's married. She's married to a Vi person. She's married to a
whatever, you know, say it, whatever, you know. But the bottom line is she's not American Liberian, anything like that, right? But yet she basically understands one thing, right? You got to look at the Republic. See, most people that talk bad about Liberia and everything like that, right? They basically don't care about the Republic. They just got their this is what you have, a bunch of children running a nation right now.
Hey, Colin, you know what I'm noticing, Colin? You know what I'm noticing, Colin? You know what I'm noticing? I'm noticing like only like certain tribes talk bad about Liberia.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to mention those tribes.
You know? No, mention those tribes, Colin. Mention them.
Ethnic groups.
Ethnic groups.
Yeah, I'm sorry, certain ethnic groups feel a certain way about Liberia.
Mention them, Colin. You can mention them, no problem.
I'm saying no, I'm not going to go there because it's divisive stuff. You know, divisive
stuff.
Well,
I just want you to understand. Let me just give a quick disclaimer here on this platform, real quick. For me, I appreciate the history. I appreciate the idea of the founding of Liberia. I do. You know, things may have an idea may be noble in the beginning, but then down the road it can turn to be something bad.
But same thing with America. Same thing with
that's the point. So I'm not saying that the American Liberians didn't do anything.
Tell me one country in the world where everybody say, you know, everything is perfect. You know, no. Do you think the people in Russia, the oligarchs of Russia, really give a damn about the masses of Russia? No. You know, they understand that like it is what it is. Main thing is Liberia was about the first time in our history we had liberty.
Let me ask you a question.
Hold up.
No. You gotta let me speak, bro. You gotta let me speak.
Go ahead.
Was Liberia an original idea? Was it an original idea?
She just told you. Yes, it was. It was.
Our Constitution. Do you know what? No. Hold on. Our original Constitution is. Hold on, Colin. You gotta give me a chance, bro. You gotta give me a chance.
Let the man land, Colin. Let the man land, Colin. Let him land. Colin, calm down. Breathe.
Our original Constitution. Our original Constitution was almost mirror to the United States Constitution.
No, it wasn't.
You know that.
No, it wasn't.
It was very similar to it. It was very similar to it. What are you saying?
The American Constitution.
Hold on. Colin, let me make my point, bro. You can't just, interrupt every time I speak.
These guys said all this nonsense and everything.
Hold on. Yo, our flag. You see our flag is quite similar to the United States flag.
It had nothing to do with that. That had nothing to do with it.
1 second. I'm giving you. What are you saying?
Let the man finish. Colin, mute yourself. Colin, I just want to hear the guy, Colin. Colin, let me hear the guy.
Go ahead.
Our form of government in Liberia is structured like a state government in the United States.
We don't have states in Liberia.
I said our form of government is structured like a state government. We have counties.
We have counties
in the United States. A state government is different. A state government, right? You have a governor, you have the House, and you have the legislature, and you have counties.
Elvis, I think you should get yourself a basic education before you come out here and debate me. You know
what are you talking about? I'm not saying we have a federal system. I'm saying our government form, our government in Liberia is structured like a state in the United States.
I'm going to destroy what you said just now, right? Just what you just said, right?
Go ahead.
Now you hold up the Second Republic. You had a chance to rectify all that, right? When you rewrote the Constitution, but you made it worse. than what the first
How?
Constitution was. You
How?
gave the state, you get senators 10-year terms, right? You increased the
No.
centralization.
Wrong. Senators currently have 9. Wait, hold on. Senators
9
currently
years,
have 9.
10 years. Before
Yeah, they have
that,
9 years, but that didn't happen
hold on.
during the time of Doe when they wrote the Constitution in 1985. It happened quite recently when the senators voted for extra 3 years. There were 6 years, and they added 3 more years to it recently in the 2000s. Not way back then. What are you saying?
He's lying. When Liberia was founded, the presidency was what, 2 years? E.J. Roy, 2 years, and then over years it increased. When you guys got in power,
who increased
you
it?
increased it 6 years.
Who increased it?
You did.
Who?
You're Amos Sawyer. All your crooks.
Amos Sawyer is a crook? Do you know the history of Amos Sawyer?
He was a bum. He was a bum.
What are you talking about?
He wasn't even Liberian. He was a crew from Sierra Leone. Come here to usurp the power, rile you idiots up and whatnot, to overthrow your country.
He riled us up, huh?
Yeah, he did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there was no reason there
there was no reason to do a savage thing like overthrow a government and destroy a civilization. You look at Liberia, Hotel Africa sitting there bombarded. I almost broke down in tears when I saw the Ducro Hotel for myself and whatnot. I see these kids sitting there, little kids sitting there playing in the dirty water in the Ducro Hotel and whatnot. I'm saying, what the hell happened to this beautiful civilization?
War happened.
War. No, you guys happened. It wasn't war. You guys.
War happened.
What happened? Your mentality.
What do you mean, my mentality?
Your mentality.
What happened?
Excuses. You know
what happened?
Because the bottom line, as soon as you don't like it, you got Henry Costa right now. I know you're friends with Henry Costa. You know, you got Henry Costa right now up there talking about he wants. I'm glad President Weah took the fire hose and whatnot and sprayed the motherfuckers and tried to hunt down Henry Costa. If he ever comes back to Liberia, he's going on trial. You know, the Liberians don't like something.
Holla, you're so hateful, man. What do we do to you? Who hurt you, bro? Who hurt you?
You do it, Henry Costa. No, I don't like ignorance. I say about Black America.
I'm trying to tell you right now, our government system is that of like a state government. We have counties. You have counties in the states, don't you?
Yeah, but
and in those counties, you have districts. And in those counties, you have districts.
Hold up, counties have seats of power. They elect they have local jurisdiction. Liberia doesn't have that. You guys are supposed to do that. Give your people local power.
Who set up Liberia? Who set up Liberia with the counties? Was it not the American Liberians? Was it not the American Liberians that set it up like that?
Hold on.
American Liberians set up Liberians with counties.
Hey, hold on. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, Kyle, hold on. Afri, go ahead and unmute yourself, Afri. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Afri.
Hello, how are you guys? Can everybody hear me?
No.
Here, just fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. So so I'm actually a Liberian woman. I've been in the States for a very long time, but every now and then I go back and forth to Liberia. And I mean, one of the things that I actually agree with, oh goodness, my phone is shutting down. I'll come right back. I apologize.
Can I say something? If the settler class didn't establish a U.S. style government, should the chiefdom have just sold all their slaves and labor off to the West? Because that's exactly what would have kept on happening until you become sovereign and until you realize that your labor should stay within its own country. You know, I believe West Africans would have just kept on doing this, selling slaves to the West. The West would have had their chance to build up. In West Africa,
Liberia played a major role in ending the slave trade on the coast. You know, New Georgia was founded by recaptured Africa. Now, here's another thing, right? If the American Liberians so elitist like people say they were, right? Why did all the recaptured Africans hold up? Why did all the recaptured Africans decide to integrate into their society, not you guys' society?
Look, check this out. I agree with your boy Kyler, because I'm new to this Liberia stuff, but I'm looking in the past. Liberia looked better in the past than it does right now. I'm just saying that. They actually had
Monrovia looks better, right? Not the hinterland. Not the hinterland. They didn't develop anything.
Okay, so explain Tubmanburg Same. Hold on. What about Yepika? Nice city, you know.
No,
Hinterland,
Kala, you call these names and you don't even know how to pronounce it. It's called Yekipa. Yekipa.
But
In Nimba County.
Elvis, hold on. One mic. But Elvis, this is the issue I have with the
Okay, go ahead. I just want to go on that point when you're done.
This is the issue I have with the Monrovia was developed, but the countryside was developed. I mean, that's everywhere on the planet. I mean, I lived in the city of Sacramento. We had before, growing up, you had certain counties and cities outside of Sacramento that weren't developed. When I went to Africa in 2011, certain cities out of Dar es Salaam wasn't developed, didn't even have paved roads. Same thing when I went to Mali. The first time I went to Mali in 2014, roads leading to Mopti and Segu weren't developed in those cities. Parts of those cities and villages weren't developed. So this whole argument about the lack of development when
here's my point, Dynasty.
Doesn't make any sense.
Here's my point. We have a centralized government, right? Everything from the interior goes straight to the centralized government in Monrovia. And when Kala is talking about, when Kala is talking about Yekipa, in Yekipa you had a mining company called LAMCO. This is the Liberian American Mining Corporation, right? This was a kind of a collaboration between America, the Swedish, and the Liberian government. That's why that area was well developed, because those people built estates for their workers. They had swimming pool. They had this whole community built out. And that's why Yekipa was a thriving city in Nimba County. So it's not like the Liberian government went there by themselves and developed that area.
Nobody said that, right? It's
okay, hold on, when you say things, there are nuances to it. There are caveats to it. You got to say that too. You can't just say it and leave it hanging like that.
Hold on, let me say this, Elvis, right? I was watching this program the other day, right, where they said successful mayors in America, right? Mayors in America, small towns and whatnot, get things, sometimes good or bad, right? And they get Walmart to invest, Amazon, the lady down in Texas was bringing people to the district and everything. Jagger built himself, right? Liberia just played host, right? And this is what I'm going to tell you right there, right? You say you're a Kron man, right? You say you're a Kron man. Oh, you say you're a Kron man, right? Yeah. I look at Zeredru and Grangita, right? You have the Grangita Association of America, right? I've been following for like 10 years, right? Right. And you guys have these big ballrooms, dances, and everything like that, right? And I'm saying, like, you guys don't look stupid, Why is it that friggin' you guys don't take that energy, right, and make Grangita, beautiful territory, right, into a citadel of hope and change? Why are you in? This is what I'm talking about. There's no American Liberia holding you back for that. My whole thing is, are you really committed to Liberia, or you just want to keep tearing down the only legacy, the freedom that we are? So when I'm defending Liberia, I'm defending my ancestors, right? Who basically went
and that's it right there, Carla. You're seeing it from a skewed view because you look at them as your ancestor. I'm seeing it from that perspective as well, because I look at these people as my ancestors.
Right,
you understand what I'm saying? So we're divided. We're divided. That's the reality of it.
Well, let's do the one mic. Eminem, go ahead, Eminem.
All right, so all that bickering. So what's the future of Liberia then? Y'all talking about this?
Well, right now, Liberia. Let me say something. Liberia basically is celebrating 200 years. The biggest event in Liberian history, where they packed the state. World people came over. And all over the world celebrate 200 years of the settlement. So you listen to young ass Liberians, unlike Elvis, right? They'll say things like, the young Liberians will say, some of our people, our ancestors that came from America, this is where they came. They don't say those things. So what Elvis is doing is he's othering the so-called American Liberian. That's what the fascists do. They other you.
No. Did you read up on Fernando Poe? Did you read up on Fernando Poe? Okay, that majority of the people that was taken to Fernando Poe was from the southeast. Our region, the southeastern region in Liberia, has always been marginalized.
See, that's what
and we hold that against the American Liberian. We hold it against them.
Hold on.
I'm not going to come here and sugarcoat anything. Some people will come on this platform and try to be kumbaya. I'm telling you how we really feel. I'm telling you how we really feel. I'm not giving you the BS.
He grew up in Monrovia, but he's talking about he's repping the southeast and whatnot, and he'll take no responsibility for all the stuff that the Crown people are doing. Do you understand the war in the Crown Terror will start because we want to put down the wars among the Crown fighting each other and killing each other? That's where it all started from. But we don't.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
We're talking about the crew people were
Yeah,
enslaving.
there was there was one major war in that territory. That was the Liberia Coup War.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't the Crown War. It was the Liberia Coup War.
But let's gloss over that. Let's omit that. And the government has a duty to bring peace and stability in its territory. That's why they went down to the southeast. You know, but you don't understand that. We're supposed to let you just run wild.
You know about Sasstown? You know about Joab Nimla?
Yeah, I know.
You know about
Sasstown. Sasstown's so pathetic. You know what I'm saying? You got that Bobby Benito, one of your boys, right? Talking all this smack and whatnot. CDC. You know Bobby Benito. You know, with his whole ass white. I ain't gonna say it. He up there and said, Monrovia. When I was in Monrovia, I said, I hope I'm up into the dude. I'm gonna pluck him in the head. Anyway, I told him, why don't you go down to Sasstown?
You can't fight a crew guy, collar.
Yo, dude, please.
You know who the crews are?
So tough.
You know who the crews are?
Yo, you know what we do? Yo, we're gonna build some MMA gyms over there. When you guys don't talk all this nonsense, man. You guys are gonna get broken up, man. Come on, you guys swear you're so tough, man. What is this? I'm so bad and whatnot. Get out of here with that shit. Nobody afraid of y'all.
The thing about it, let me be serious for a minute, Colin. Let me be serious for a minute. You know, in Liberia, like I said, there are two different ethnic groups. There are the Mende people. They're the majority. They got like 52, 53% of the entire population. They're different kind of tribes, or you can call them different groups within the same language family, right? And then on the southeast, primarily you have the Crew-speaking people. And mostly the Crew-speaking people, they are more, let's say they're more resistant to domination.
Well,
they don't lay down.
Let's tell the whole truth. Let's tell the whole
truth.
Let's tell the whole truth.
Go ahead.
Let's tell the whole truth. The Crew tribe, right, gained the confidence of the white man, and they had special markings on their skin, right, that protected them from slavery, right? The Crew tribe was the only tribe. They sea farm people, right? They traveled the coast of West Africa. If a slave trader captured a crew, right, and they saw the markings on the ship, I don't care where that crew was, right? He could be in Brazil. They will take that crew, put him on a ship, and send him back to his thing. What that did was the Crew tribe, out of all the African tribes, right, had the trust and the alliance with the white slave traders. Every one of them said, "Don't ever enslave the Crew tribe because they're our allies on the coast," right? And
why was that? Why were they allies?
I have no idea why the Crew did that.
Because they were navigators. They were navigators. Without them, they would have no direction, right?
Yeah, but the bottom line, they aided and helped the white man on the coast. And the Crew people, I know your groups and whatnot. I listen to you guys. The Crew people still think the British are the best thing since sliced bread. You know, they still basically, and a lot of tensions between African Americans and Liberians come from the Crew tribe. You know, you would know that, and I know that. You know, they
there's a saying in Liberia. Heaven was peaceful until crewmen went in there, because they don't take no shit. You know, they don't take no mess from anybody.
But they don't but they got laws. We got laws. We have laws. We're trying to establish the rule of law.
Almost every indigenous president of Liberia has had some Crew blood in them. You know that, right? You know that, right? We're leaders. We're not somebody who's going to sit down and let somebody walk all over us.
The bottom line, hold on. The bottom line is you guys never raised a fist against the British, right? You guys never raised a fist against the British. But when another comes to another black race, you want to, and the bottom line, our answer just said, okay, we called your bluff. You know, and that's what happened. You know, we called your bluff. See, the difference between, Diane, let me tell you something, right? About how African Americans survived in Liberia, right? We know, like when Elvis is talking and stuff like that, I know African lingo. We're pretty much the same, right? We talk shit, you know? When African was certain drums and whatnot, our ancestors that lived in Liberia, we had that African retention. We knew what drums meant war. Hillary Teague said that, you know? We knew what drums meant. The Africans would try to intimidate, and we would get ready. We knew the drums of war. We heard them, you know? It's just like today.
You saying that the American Liberians defeated the Crews by themselves? Are you saying that?
Well, hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying. Then that's why today, right? A lot of people don't understand when they hear social media. They don't understand the words, the drums of war. You know, I tell Elvis, man, you can't. We have a differences of opinion, but the Liberian, I'm grateful that the Liberians now, right, through social media and stuff like that, the young Liberians now will embrace their heritage, because the founding of Liberia, and they don't say, like, when they see the Liberian textbooks now, they see people that look like them. We found people that came from America. And also, they married the indigenous people. They talk about indigenous heroes in history, the King Massaquoi and all these other people. and everything like that. So everybody's giving a balanced history of Liberia.
Have you heard about D12?
Elvis is still
No, hold on. It's not a monologue, Kala. It's not a monologue. It's not a monologue. Let me jump in real quick. No, Kala. Let me jump in, bro. Let me jump in.
Like him or
Have you heard about D12? Have you heard about D12?
No.
Okay, D12 was a crewman who challenged the oligarchy that was the American-Liberian ruling system, right? He wanted to form his own party and contest for the presidency.
Oh yeah, D12. Yeah, now I know that.
And what happened to him?
He lied.
What happened to him?
In his letter,
what do you mean he lied? What happened to him?
He lied, right? Because you know what Tubman did? Tubman said, you know something? You complain about this, but we were borrowing a British yacht, right? A president, and I got to visit the part of the coast one night. So we found the
Kala, you're babbling right now.
Hold on.
Focus on the issue. What did D12 do? What did they do to him?
Porte DeWitt said? He was like, well, you did this. And Tubman said to Porte DeWitt, he said, you know something? He said, look, the money that was raised by taxpayers, right? He said, we live in a country right now where a lot of the people that's complaining don't pay any taxes. They're not contributing to the tax base. He said, "This." What
are you talking about? They had, you know what they did to the natives when they didn't pay taxes? Yeah, but most they sat them. Wait, hold on. That's a nerve right there. They sat us in the sun. They sat our ancestors in the sun and made them look at the sun until the sun went down for not paying HUD taxes. HUD.
I mean, where was this? How come I can't find no evidence?
Bro, come on, man. Elvis, come on, bro.
I'm telling you, the lady was right here.
Making shit up, Elvis. Come on, man.
I'm making this up. I'm not making it up. They did that to our people.
You be
come on, man. Oh my God, make me sit in the sun, but I'm paying.
Oh my gosh, that's what I'm saying. You guys don't know the full history of our country. You don't. I'm telling you, these are things that our ancestors passed down.
Man, they making shit up now. Go
they passed down.
Hold on, Kyle. Let Eminem go. Let Eminem go. Kyle, chill out. Go ahead, Eminem. Go ahead.
All right, so Elvis, like, I'm gonna ask you a question. Like, do you think Liberia was better before, I guess, the coup, or after? I'm serious. Like,
and that's a good question, bro. And I appreciate that. And I'm gonna compartmentalize it, right?
Yeah.
For some people, it was better because you had Monrovia, where you had this kind of
where you were.
Hold on, Colin. Hold on.
Let him finish, Colin. I'm at the interjective. I know where this is going. I'm gonna shut this down immediately.
Yeah, it was better for a lot of people who were in that oligarchical class where you had families who were ruling the country pretty much. You had different generations of people who their families, predominantly American Liberian. It was better for them. But people who were in the interior of the country who was living in huts at the time, as early as 1960, even as early as 1970, Liberia wasn't a paradise for them. It wasn't. Now, after the war, for most people, their destiny is now in their hands. Now, whatever our politicians do, I agree with Colin. Liberia, we don't have great politicians. We don't have great people who are leading us now. But the fact is, we can go to the ballot box.
Yeah, what does a ballot do for you? Like I said, VOTEP.
VOTEP. Hold on. But MM, this is the problem. I keep bringing this up. I was in Liberia in 2019. All right, you go to Monrovia, downtown Monrovia, all the shops, liquor stores, grocery stores, everything ran by the Lebanese. Not natives, not the indigenous Liberians, Lebanese.
Right.
Oh, they could have kept us over there.
Listen, listen. The Dukar Hotel, which was one of the first, was I think like the first or second 5-star hotel.
It wasn't owned by the Liberian government. It was a foreign investment. It wasn't owned by the Liberian government. Get that right.
Look at it now. Hotel Africa.
It was war. They tore everything down. The entire country was gutted.
Let me tell you what happened, man. You're gonna keep it a buck.
No.
Indigenous got into power in 1980 and just destroyed everything.
No. That's the point I'm making. The country wasn't destroyed in 1980. The war came 1989 from 1989 to 2003. That's when the entire country got destroyed.
Indigenous Liberians, like this group, this block, all this perspective, they love moving the goalposts in the timeline, right? In 1983, the postal system in Liberia was one of the best on the continent. It collapsed, right? They started having food shortage. Liberia was exporting shrimp out of the coast of Maryland. Maryland has to this day has not recovered from that. It was a major export of shrimp and everything. Maryland. And Harper Port, right? That's collapsed. The whole country. Lamco, the government tried to get Lamco. Lamco said, "Man, you guys thought we had all this money and whatnot." He go like, "We gave it." They thought the American Liberians had all this money from the concessions, and they said, "No, it ain't like that." You know, so they said, "Well," so Doe went on. They said, "Look, man, we told y'all lives are gonna improve dramatically. Y'all gonna start living like the rich Congo people or whatnot, but it's gonna take time." And then next thing you know, somebody named Queer Podcast said, "You know something, man? I want to capitalize on this." Tall Tale said, "You know, like this, everybody, Prince Johnson, everybody started jockeying for power now. You know, I'm the truth, I'm the way, and everything." And that's what happened. It's like it's right out of
don't distort our history.
George.
Don't do that.
It's right out of George. Well, it's if Liberians would have had education, they would have saw that. Look, this whole thing is out of George Orwell's Animal Farm. You know. So,
bro,
you
think education was available to every native Liberian?
Hold on. I'm like this. Let me say this, brother Elvis. Let me say this, bro. Right, and this goes what I say about a lot of African brothers. Right, you know, I used to know this girl back in the days. Right, she was Romanian. Right, and me and my friends were hanging out. This is back in '99. We all went out to Busch Gardens and whatnot. Right, and she was telling me, she said, "I want a black born again Christian guy." You know, I said, "I know all about black people." I said, "How the heck you in Romania? You know about black people, right?" She go, "We got libraries, we got books, tapes, everything. You know, we know." She knew all about African American history, and she said she was settled by the fact that she want African American man. You know, that's she.
Do Liberia have a national library, Kala?
Hold on.
Do we have a national library under the American Liberians?
We could have built.
Do we? Do we? We don't.
My thing is,
we don't.
Liberia, they should have integrated the indigenous.
There you go, my brother. You're speaking truth right there. They failed to do that.
But hold on, but I know the GDP back in the day was better. I guess in the 1980s.
Compared to countries that was colonized. We were pretty much the only free country on the continent that had control of our economy at the time. So who are we comparing ourselves to?
Hold on, let me say
something. Not Japan. They said the GDP was similar to Japan.
It was in growth. But the thing is, Liberia, each county had their own pipe-borne water, right? They had water tower. You go to Sino, you see that water tower in Sino? In Greenville, that's rivals anything you see in the West. You know, so Liberia had the highest standard of living comparable to, they said, Mexico City. So
Monrovia, not Liberia. Monrovia. What are you talking about?
Hold on. You keep saying Monrovia. Harper was developed too. Same thing with Greenville. All these cities along the coast were all developed. Robertsport. All these cities. You keep saying Monrovia.
Do you know who developed Greenville?
Well, the bottom line is the bottom.
No. Say that. Say who developed Greenville.
Hold on.
Who developed Greenville?
Greenville and
missionaries.
Right?
Missionaries.
Missionaries. They get so. Show me any missionary settlements in Liberia.
Greenville. You have a city in Nimba County where you have the Methodist, missionaries there. What are you saying, bro?
It was established by missionaries. Same thing with Cape Palmas, right? But the Bible doesn't mean anything. People eventually took it over. You know, I think you confuse the Cape Palmas, right? The Cape Palmas had a mission there. That wasn't Greenville, it was Cape Palmas, you know. So the bottom line is this: it does not matter, you know. Liberia had missions and stuff like that, you know. It's early history, that's fine. But the thing is, though, who basically built the country? And also, you don't give the Liberian who basically say, you know something, I want to be educated. There was more Liberians that had an indigenous background than a so-called American background. You know,
what do you mean? What do you mean? Clarify, elaborate on that statement right there. What do you mean?
Okay, what I'm saying is, so, like I said, you don't seem to get it, right?
No, you said there was more Liberians who have indigenous background.
Yeah. And it's a nice trap I just set for you, right? You don't even realize you just fell into a trap.
No, go ahead. I want to understand. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, library. This is what I'm talking about, right? All you have to do, there was no such people call themselves American Liberians. They just called themselves, in early Liberian history, right? They call themselves Marylanders. They call themselves Cretans, you know, they call themselves Virginians and everything. Then they start calling themselves by their church, Episcopalians, Methodists.
So where did the name American Liberians come from? From the native people?
American Liberian, right? And you want to learn something, came from the West. Just like, do you know the correct term for Japan is Nippon? Japan is something that was imposed on by the West, you know? And a lot of the tribes you see in Liberia, right? On the coast and whatnot were named by the Zulu. That's not their real name. That was something the Europeans imposed on them, and they adopted. Okay, we're Zulu. You know, most of the stuff you see comes from outsiders imposing on their stuff, and you just take a run with it. the so-called, there was nobody sitting there saying, we're American Liberians. There was never such a people.
What is the connotation of that name? What is the connotation of it?
The connotation is negativity, it's othering. It acts
No,
like
It's people who came from America.
No,
who
first of all,
yes, it's self-explanatory. What are you saying?
But here's where you're wrong. So what were the Barclays?
You have two groups of people in Liberia.
You
have three. Hold on. Tyler, let me explain. You asked me a question. Let me explain it. You asked me a question. Allow me to explain it. Right? You had three groups of people. Hold on.
Where did the Barclay family come from?
Barbados.
Okay, so why did you call? Why there's so?
That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Let me break it down to you. There's the American Liberians, there's the Congos, and the native Liberians. You understand that, right?
The bottom line is this.
No. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's a separation there.
The bottom line is this. You guys, hold up. The people, all this is stupid stuff. The average Liberian, my history and my study and everything.
I live in Congo Town. That's one of the settlements. That's where I grew up.
They never. That was like the Congo people. No, even when you basically go to Liberia and call somebody Congo, they shy away from my wife's family. We don't talk that.
They go by the name, huh?
You know, they don't go by it. They just call themselves Liberians. You know, And let me say this, right, Elvis, right? You have to realize what Charles Taylor said, right? Great Charles Taylor. He said, "There's a." You said
great brother Charles Taylor. Is that what you just said?
Hold up. There's a white man. Hold up. And I was chilling out with his son when I was in Liberia.
I get it. And Liberian wants to be anything but Liberians. I know that statement. I know that statement.
Check this out. There's Charles Taylor said, look, there's a white man, there's a black man, and there's what? The Liberian man, you know?
Right.
The Liberian man's a whole case all to himself in the whole black world. There's a white man, the black, you can't get it through Liberia, get thick-headed, man, you know? And the bottom line is this, the world don't care about your freaking tribe and your ethnicity. You keep that to yourself and build on that. You know what I'm saying?
My point, I mentioned that because those were underlining tensions that led to the coup. This whole topic is about the coup. I want to tell you, Carla, like I'm saying right now, I have Congo people in my family. I have American Liberians.
You hang around Congo people. I seen you. You hang around Congo people, man. You Congo people and shit. Everybody.
I grew up in Congo Town. That's where I grew up. So I'm trying to tell you, this is not coming from a place of hate. It's just history.
Bottom line,
it's the contemporary history that I'm telling you about Liberia.
If you say you found somebody's mother and father were murdered, right? And you say they're murdered. You're so insensitive, right? People lost everything. No. Murdered.
A lot of us. Let me say this. Let me give you a disclaimer. A lot of people disagree with the executions on the beach. A lot of people disagree with the executions on the beach. Understand that. I disagree with it. I'll say that right now. I disagree with it.
Bottom line. So people lost everything, right? You got people that's in America right now saying, I would love to go back to Liberia, but they're terrified. Why would anybody be terrified of their own land? I said like this, one day we're going to make it so that you can go back to your country and nobody will touch you. Nobody, and that's what I'm building in Liberia right now. So
even man flees when no one pursues them. You know that, right?
Hold on. You make a statement like, the reason why this happened or whatever, but it's like you find your parents dead and whatnot, right? And then murdered everything. You're grieving and you lost everything. And somebody will whisper in your ear, well, your parents, sometimes they did this, sometimes they acted this, sometimes they did this. Like, you don't do that, man. That's just being civilized. You don't even say something like that.
Oh, we should forget it, right? Forget it. Forgive.
Bottom line,
forgive, right?
But yet you basically will come to America, right? Around the same people, descendants of the same people you claim that did you so wrong, right? Hey, in Congo,
I don't have. Look, hold on. I don't have anything against African Americans. African Americans has never done anything to me. They've never done anything to me.
This guy Elvis lived in Congo Town around American Liberian people. But at the same time, when you was growing up, do you know how many millions of people are dying in the Congo? You know what I'm saying? Were you killed in the millions? Do you know Pol Pot killed millions of people one night? Was anybody rounded up in Liberia and killed because of everything? No. You basically didn't because you felt like you weren't on top and you were like, it's class.
Bro, it was 133 years of being subjugated to a few families.
Civilization?
What do you mean civilization? When you don't, there's a saying in Africa, bro. There's a saying in Africa. I'd rather be a lion in the jungle than a dog in the city.
See, the bottom line is
we're not trying to live like a dog in the city.
Why do you say that when you live in Congo Town in Monroe? You're a hypocrite.
What do you mean I'm a hypocrite? This was after the war. This was after the war. This was after the war when people like us, when native people could live in those communities.
How did they
living with the native people?
How they subjugate the natives? I don't want to know. How they
Yeah, okay, let me answer you, For example, right? You had a guy like Amos Sawyer, right? Who was an indigenous Liberian.
He was a bum.
Yo, bro, let me speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was an indigenous Liberian, right?
He was Sierra Leone. You don't know your history. He was a
what
crew
are you talking about?
He was
from the territory.
He was part of the crew educated elite that was trying to manipulate back and forth.
Where are the crews from? Where are the crews from?
The crews are all over the coast and whatnot, but those crews also in Sierra Leone. That's where he comes from. He had y'all people fooled.
Are the crew people Sierra Leoneans or Liberian?
He had you fooled to hate your own country.
Our constitution states that only people. Wait, hold on, bro. Hold on. Don't interrupt me. Our constitution states that only people of Negro descent could be Liberians, right? And he came into Liberia. He was born in Liberia. And he was a Liberian man.
Hold on. You benefited from the idea that Liberia established as a black country. Amos Sawyer was also Creoles. You know, he had American Liberian blood in him, but he knew his meal ticket was manipulating you people. You know,
no, because that wasn't his meal ticket. He's a son of the soil. He went to his people. He didn't come and act like a American Liberian and felt like he was better than other people.
And you believed him. You know, that's what I said. You guys act like children. Somebody comes along. Oh,
bro, let me answer Let me answer him. He wants to know something. He wants to understand. Let me answer him, Colin. Let me answer him.
He was out for himself.
Hey, the point here is this guy wanted to run for mayor of the city of Monrovia. He was a college professor at the University of Liberia. He was very popular. A lot of people was with him, right? And instead of running the election, the government canceled the election because they saw that he was going to win. Is that a lie, Colin? Is that a lie?
Well, the bottom line.
Yeah. It's not a lie. It's the truth. They didn't franchise people to vote for their candidates. They didn't.
Okay, well, we got Afri. I want to hear from Afri. Unmute yourself. Go ahead. I want to hear from Afri. Go ahead, Afri. Unmute yourself.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, my connection failed. So just let me know if the audio sounds bad. Just interject.
You're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I do want to center the conversation back because I feel like I lost some time. So I have a two-part question for both Elvis and Kala. The two-part question is, first, what do you believe was the downfall of Liberia? Like what, because it seems like the argument is that 1982. So it seems like the argument is that one group over the other was responsible for the downfall. And so what is your belief? And then we're going to get into,
I'll tell you
ask about solution.
I'll tell you what, and I got to get off because I have my radio show going in a little while. I'll tell you what it is, right? The bottom line is when the U.S. people Peace Corps people came to Liberia, right? They basically, and my boy William, Bobby William, that Elvis is friends with, who introduced us, he knows what I'm talking about. Bobby William will tell you, I don't know why Elvis talks like this, right? He said you had white people in the Peace Corps and everything like this, and a lot of these white people come from white trash backgrounds and everything. And the bottom line is when they go to Liberia and everything, they do this all over Africa, right? First thing they do is find out what tribes don't like each other, right? They don't look at like I said the other night. I said when you look at white people, there's like a united front. You don't see poles, you don't see anything like that. That's power, right? So there's no power in being black, right? White people love to basically name people by their tribe. Oh, the Vi people, this and the other. What they found in Liberia was these tribes got along in their culture that was created, right? This culture created. The people, Vi people got along. America.
Hey, Kyle, can you? That's I know he's gonna respond, and I might go off soon. So you just
okay. So I was just like this. So bottom line is this: the othering, right? Othering when people basically say they want power and stuff like that. I agree that the country should have been decentralized and everything. Local people should have had access to mines. And
there you go, Colin. I like that.
Hold on. But when they did get power, right? They did it in Bloody Coup. Hurrah, a great day. Bloody Coup, whatever, like celebrating, Congo woman, born soldier, Congo woman,
country woman, born soldier.
They were celebrating. Now look at Redemption Road now. The filthiest place on the freaking planet. That's a Redemption Road, they call it. The filthiest thing. You can smell the place from miles away. That's the mentality of the Native Revolution, right?
Okay,
Anyway,
thank you,
the
Carla. Let
bottom,
me answer. I gotta get a chance to the answer too.
Hold on. I'm gonna give it to you, bro. Elvis. I'm gonna land. I'm gonna give it to you because I gotta go. The bottom line is this: when they had the ability, right, after they killed it, they declared another republic, right? They said we're gonna start off new. They could have changed the name of the country. They could have changed the flag. They could change the constitution. They could do everything, right? But they propped up what they knew was good, Liberia. You know, it was like that.
Yes,
So
yes, we love Liberia. We hate the way our people were treated. That's the difference.
But they hate the
we
people
love Liberia, but we hate the way our people were treated.
They hate the people. They get stayed. See, Africa is tribal, right? If Liberia was a white country, so these people would never try to rise up and whatnot. You know, when it was a black country, it's Africans.
Oh, we hated American Liberians simply because they had dark skin like us. Is that what you're saying?
You don't like other black people, no, because the bottom line is you think that you could get away with stuff that you can't get away with.
No, it's because of what they did, bro. It's because of what they did. It's not because you're black. Let me answer her question. Let me answer ad free.
Why you think all the massacres in Tutsis and everything like that? Not one white person has ever been killed in Southern Africa.
Do you know the history of the Hutus and the Tutsis? Do you know that the Tutsis was put over the Hutus, and they was told that the Tutsis was better than them? Did you know that?
You're still a freaking slave. You're a slave, and we're coming out of that. We brought you liberty and Constitution and everything like that. You rejected it, so you want to go back to being a slave.
You know that. You do know that, Carla. That what you're doing right now, what you're accusing Elvis of doing right now, is what you are doing. You're being ethnocentric, and so I just wanted. And he's projecting, and that you can just say what you have to say without having to make it seem like Native people.
Sister, you're a beautiful Liberian sister. My wife is Liberian. I love Liberia. I love Liberia with all my heart. I just want to see us do something because.
But you still didn't answer the question, Carla. I just want to know the answer.
I told you, in 1986, they had every chance to freaking rebuild the republic in their own native image and whatnot, and it didn't happen.
Okay, let me answer. Thank you for your answer, Colin. And to the sister question, right? We loved Native people, for example. We love the idea of American Liberians coming into Liberia and starting the country. It was a noble idea. Most of our people was in Confederacy, a gang of tribal people who had some understanding and work together. That's how our government system was during those days. So the idea of finding a republic was a good idea. We embrace it, right? But like the brother said, you have to integrate the Native people and look at them as your equal, as your brothers. They didn't do that. For 133 years, they marginalized those natives and told us we're country bumpkin, we're jigaboos. They told all of these things.
Yo, bottom line is
Tyler, please don't interrupt. Let me answer the question, please. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question, right?
So, Elvis, let me ask you a question. So, when the American Liberians showed up in 1822, I believe, at Providence Island, my question is, because it seems like whenever we bring up Liberian natives, you guys paint this picture that was already on the list when the American Liberians came.
Say that again? You're breaking it down. I'm not hearing. I'm not getting you too well.
Yeah, my mic is acting up. So, wait, hear me? Can you hear me?
It's breaking up. It's choppy, bro.
You're breaking up a little bit.
You're breaking up, but I can hear you.
Okay, and this is my my mic is up. Things got up. No, what I was saying. Can we call him? Can me?
I can hear you.
Nah, it's breaking up. Well, how can you say you can hear him? We can't understand what he's saying. It's breaking up. But let me just answer the question quick. Maybe you can fix your mic real quick, Diners. But the point is, for 133 years, no indigenous ever had the social stratification to get up to a vice presidential level or to the presidency.
Yo,
we
didn't have that in America.
Hold on, bro. But the system in Liberia is different.
In America. You guys were ahead of us in America.
Hold on. But are you the majority in America? No, you're only like 13% of the population, black people here. We were 85% of the population in Liberia. and we had no power for 133 years. How is that fair?
You guys had power. You had your Paramount chiefs, man.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh okay.
But then you don't want to talk about that, man.
The American Liberians were
all
collecting
kinds of
her
women,
taxes.
They had children doing their work for them. And everything.
Did we even have representative in the House of Representatives? We didn't.
Yeah, you had.
Did we have senators?
I just want to
no, we didn't.
My thing is.
So let me know. Hold on, MMA. I'm just trying to answer the sister question real quick. So
anyway, bro, I gotta go.
Yeah, Carla.
I gotta go. You guys carry on.
After 133 years, those underlying conditions was what made people feel like it's time to rise up. Any little opportunity that presented itself, they were going to take it and take over the country because they felt like they were marginalized. So we had a 14-year civil war. And one of the stipulations for our peace agreement was we have to have what is called, restorative justice, and have like a palava hut kind of situation where we do in Africa. We sit under the palava hut. Palava is a name for confusion, where we solve our confusions, right? And one of the key things was the divide between the American Liberian and the native Liberian. We have never had a conversation to really, settle that.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Or is it still
yeah, we hear you better. Go ahead, Dynast. We hearing you.
Afri, this is the problem. All right. So when the American Liberians showed up in 1822, a lot of the indigenous Liberians like the painted image that Liberia was a monolith, right? It was tribes. Tribes were warring with each other. Some tribes participated in the slave trade, and then of course some tribes worked with the American Liberians.
Right
now, in 1980, when Samuel got in the power, what did he do? He put all the tribal homies in office, and you saw how that played out. So this idea, like it's the indigenous versus the Americans, when it was really each individual tribe wanted power. That was the reality.
You know why that is, Dynast.
I agree. I agree that was the reality.
Yeah, that was true.
My whole thing was, I don't think anybody, or at least I hope, here disagrees. But my whole thing is that, he mentioned like, okay, if this was like a white country, then the things would be different after the collapse, after the coup. But I mean, the actuality, look what's going on now today in white countries. And first of all, every country that's ever had a destabilizing coup, afterwards, the aftermath was not pretty. It took a long time for those individual countries to recover from that. And the same is going to happen for, Ukraine. Ukraine right now, their government is...
Let me interrupt you, sister, 1 second. You know what's going to be the difference in Ukraine? America, Europe, they're going to pour in billions of dollars to rebuild Ukraine.
Exactly.
If Liberia is left to itself to rebuild itself, it's going to be difficult.
Why ain't nobody help them? Why ain't nobody help?
And so you can't blame after the coup. First of all, the biggest mistake that happened was that the ethnic, the tribal wars. That's the biggest mistake.
And hold on, Liberians like to look at it as a tribal war only on the native, but the American Liberian themselves saw themselves as kind of like a tribe, and they share power. My own
father, he lived in a doghouse, literally, because my mother, his mother, married some like Lebanese man, and the Lebanese man, they said, well, he is too black, so I don't want him in my house. Okay. And so like that's my father, he's half Bassa, and he's half American, America Liberia.
I'm half.
And so like that was just the attitude among them. They just, and it's not to say that we should hate American Liberians or whatever, but it's just like that's just how they separated themselves from
exactly. They separated themselves and had power for over 133 years.
But Elvis, that's what you guys do now. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's like the saying in Africa, bro. Monkey see, monkey do.
The problem I have with this conversation is, for some odd reason, American Liberians became the face of tribalism. Tribalism that's been going on the continent for hundreds of years before American Liberians.
It's not that they became the face of tribalism. It's that before American Liberia came there, there was some type of
favor their own group of
harmony
people.
there.
They favor the American Liberians, Diners. Only American Liberians were ministers, vice presidents, directors, and things like that.
What happened when Samuel Doe got into office?
He did the same exact thing.
Okay, so
that's the point that I'm making. It's like monkey see, monkey do. It's like a child learning from his mother. You are what your father is.
Here we go with the excuses.
Yeah, it is. If we had a true form of democracy and the native came in, they were going to emulate that form. They saw what they saw and they wanted to be just like what the American Liberian did.
But like Colin said, you guys had the opportunity to right the wrong, the so-called wrong, and take over and create this new fair.
We're not aliens. We're human beings, just like American Liberians. The same. We can't be Jesus Christ. We can't come in there and be the good holy people.
Excuses.
What are you
accountability and excuses?
What are you saying, Donnie? You expected the natives to be the good people, right? And the American Liberian be the bad people? We should just come in and say, okay, everything is forgiven. Nothing was wrong. We're going to treat these people like our brothers. They never did anything to us for 133 years. Everything is forgiven. That's what we should have done.
But what did you do when you got into office?
Tribalism was a big factor. Yes, tribalism was a big factor.
Okay,
he surrounded himself with.
It's just the excuses. Again, the question today, and basically what we've been saying, Liberia was worse off after 1980. And it's just a fact.
For whom? For whom?
For everybody. Everybody.
Not for everybody. People have Diners. Would you not like to vote? I'm not sure if you vote in America, but for some people that's a big issue. If somebody has some caveat or some stipulation that you had to pass by, and it was a hard thing for you to get, just to vote for a candidate of your choice, a representative, a senator, or even a president. Do you think you would deal with that for over 133 years? And look at your people be subjugated and not have the same rights as others in your country when you are the majority of the people? You think you would deal with that without any hate or any envy in your heart?
It's no, because you're the majority of the people. All right, because again, you guys were tribal. All right, individual tribes. So it's not you're a majority of the people, because again, when Doe got into office,
committed a coup. It wasn't just one tribe. It was almost 13, almost like 10 different tribal men committed the coup. The coup. I mean,
okay, what happened when Doe got power? What happened
for the first 10 years, or let's say 9 years?
Oh no, good. See, that's the problem. You guys refused to take ownership how you ran the country into the ground. Period.
Do you know what happened? You know what happened? There was a counter coup. Do you know that?
But why? Why did they go after Doe? Why?
They went after Doe because their original. Hold on, let me explain this. Now you're asking a question. Let me explain it.
Doe was going around Liberia, slaughtering people, being tribal, killing other people from other tribes, committing acts of genocide, and people got fed up.
No, that's not where it started from. It didn't just start. He didn't just start going to kill. His best friend was a Don person, what you call Gil. Those two people was the top head of the PRC during those days.
And all right. And what happened?
Let me explain it now. Let me give you the explanation. When Doe came into power, right? Their agreement was, I think after like 3 years or so, they were going to turn over the government back to civilian rule. Now, here's where it comes into. This is the tribal part of it. You have people coming from Grand G, that his kingsmen is coming, talking to him in his dialect, telling him, don't be stupid, because if you give this thing back to the people, they're going to prosecute you for this thing. They're going to take it away from you, and they're going to prosecute you. These other people who are educated, they're going to fool you and make you think that this is the right move to make, and they're going to prosecute you. Again, I don't agree with Doe. I don't think Doe was a great president. He's my kingsman, but I don't agree with it. I think he was, for the most part, he was stupid on some of the things that he did.
I need to ask this. Hold on. How the hell the Lebanese came to Liberia? That's what I want to know. This
Lebanese are traders. They're people who sell. They're in Ivory Coast. They're in Congo. They're just business people in a lot of African countries. This is not unique to Africa, or to Liberia, I should say. They're in a lot of West African countries, and they run a lot of the economies in those countries. This is not unique to Liberia.
Yeah. But Elvis, again, but MM, this is the problem, MM. All right, so the coup happens in 1980.
Right.
They ran the shit into the ground. And today, when you go to Liberia, especially Monrovia, Lebanese run it, period. They run it.
Mm-hmm.
Not the locals, not the indigenous people. The Lebanese.
You know, you have the same thing here in the United States, Dynast. You have Indians and Koreans coming into the wait. Hold on. There's a reason they have the capital and the natives don't. They have the money. They can come in and get a loan, or they can come in with money from their country and start businesses.
So Elvis again.
He's coming with money. They have capital.
So Elvis.
I don't like that. Kick them out too.
So Elvis again. What was the purpose of the 1980 coup? I mean, you're making up all these excuses.
No. Yeah, the purpose of the 1980 coup.
The so-called now the natives can't get no money. You know, they can't do nothing. They can't get no money. Lebanese is coming. You know, again, post 1980,
right?
That coup set back Liberia. Period.
Not the coup, the war. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You think? No, hold on, Dynast. You think when Samuel Doe took over, he started breaking down all the buildings that the American Liberian built? He started breaking all the roads. No, it wasn't like that. The war was the thing that messed up the country for good.
Again, what he did, he came into power. He put all his homies in power. He started committing acts of genocide versus other Liberians, and then you guys went to war.
That's the point that I'm trying to make to you, right?
Okay, so again,
he was a military dictator. He was a tyrant, right?
But that's what you guys wanted. That's what you guys
wanted. Liberians didn't vote for Samuel Doe to take over power, but they were happy that the American Liberian rule was going to be.
Okay, so then that's what you got, and Liberia's in the state that it is today.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree with you. It is what it is right now. But the point is, the coup for many people was justified because of what happened for 133 years. That's why they wanted the government to be removed. If we could have done it in a peaceful way, no bloodshed, we would have taken that option, but it wasn't possible at the time. We could have taken it.
I think it was.
Hell no, it wasn't.
I think it was.
Hell no, it wasn't.
I think Tolbert. Everybody talking about he was a good president.
He was more progressive than his predecessor than previous presidents.
Should have waited until he developed the country. Now you got the Lebanese there.
You have a group of people who is 133 years ahead of your people economically, educationally. Still going to wait for another 20 or 30 years to then start getting your freedom? Or is that what you're telling me?
No,
man, look.
Hold on, Elvis. You need to be specific. We need to stop painting this indigenous population as a monolith. All right, stop saying my people. It needs to be specific by tribe. All right, be specific by tribe, because again, when your people got in, your tribe, Samuel Doe, he got in, and he put all his tribal homies in power, and then it just went to shit, period.
You say it just went to shit because he put his tribal homie there, or because the war came and destroyed the country?
See, and this is the issue when it comes to Liberia. You guys want to be disingenuous. You want to dance around. You don't want to be.
Samuel Doe executed two of his tribal men. He executed them, right? And then Thomas Kuyampa, which is a person from Nimba County, which for all intents and purposes, we're related to this group of people by our culture, our heritage. We're neighbors. We live next door to each other. But we've had some ancient tribal wars before, and we settled that a long time ago. But that war was reopened during the time when Kuyampa came back, and people looked at him as the only person that could fight Doe. He was formidable. His people was backing him. Doe's people was backing him. He came into the country. For the most part, he was almost 90% there from taking Doe from power, but then he fell. And then there was retaliation for that failed coup that just ran everything into the ground. You saw what happened in Turkey with Erdogan. When that coup failed, and you saw Erdogan went up and killed all the people that was trying to overthrow his government. You seen that in recent times.
Elvis, let me ask you this. Was Liberia more stable before 1980 versus after 1980?
Yes, it was more stable. Yes.
Okay. I mean, so I just,
but more stable for the ruling class, though, right?
Man,
for the ruling class. You can say America was stable during the time of slavery, and there was people was making money from cotton and things. But for the blacks in America, it wasn't heaven. They wanted their freedom. They wanted their rights.
So
right?
What's the plan? Hold on, Elvis. So what's the plan going forward then?
The plan is our people don't fully understand what we call, democracy, right? We don't fully understand it, and we're not practicing it in its best form. So our government is only for the people who are, you ask a lot of African people from different countries, Nigeria, other African countries will tell you the politicians are only out for themselves. And whatever little money that the country is getting, they're siphoning it off to themselves. So it's an African problem that we have in Liberia. It's not like we're some kind of alien people who are supposed to be this beacon of Africanness, that we're going to have a society that's different than any other African country.
So
we have the same symptoms that most African countries do.
Just listen to the excuses. So basically, man,
yeah.
1980, people that did not understand a democracy decided to start a coup, and it's been just gone down the toilet since then. I mean, he just said it. They had no clue how to operate a democracy.
Why was that? Why was that, Dynast?
Decided to start a coup, and it's gone down the toilet ever
since. If your daddy don't teach you how to tie a tie, and it's time for prime, and he expects you to know how to tie a tie just innately, it's not going to be possible. They never brought the democracy to the native people and taught them what it was. It wasn't even a democracy. It was kind of like an oligarchy, where a few families had powers and the rest of us was at the bottom. What are you saying?
What is it now, Elvis? What is it now?
In this form, right? It's a better democracy. You have people God. No, I'm saying it's not perfect, but you have you're enfranchised to vote for people.
The second question I did have was, what would be some solutions that we can think of?
For me, I'll tell you this right now. Like Kala and Dynast is saying, right? I'm a Pan-Africanist at heart, honestly. I grew up in America. I have a lot of African American friends. A lot of my close friends are African Americans, right? So I don't hate African Americans. People think that we have this hate because we live amongst America, Liberia, and they have a similar lineage. So thereby we transfer our disagreement to African Americans. It's not the case. Kala will want you to believe that. It's not the case. The point here is, I think there are opportunities in America where if you go back and you do it right this time, and you integrate the society, and everybody is on equal footing, and you can help uplift the native people along with yourselves, we could have a real nice country in Liberia, right? The biggest problem with Liberia is a lot of brain drain. A lot of our best and brightest left the country. Our doctors, our lawyers, our
right. Which hold on, Elvis, which leads me to another question. Okay, if the Americas were so brutal and unfair before 1980, why did indigenous people start leaving alive? Why didn't indigenous people leave Liberia en masse during American rule?
Because they didn't have access to visa. They didn't have access to those things. Bro, our people could barely read and write. Well, how were they going to go to the embassy and ask for a visa to travel? And also, we didn't have families in the Americas. For me, for example, when we came to the United States, I had an auntie, an uncle who's married to my auntie. My mom's sister is married to a Congo person. They sponsor us. When you're coming to this country, you have to have a lot of certain things. You have to have a sponsor, somebody who's going to take care of you until you get on your feet. A lot of the native people, they didn't have anybody in America. Where were they going to come? So after the war, a lot of refugees came in the countries. Those first wave of refugees, the United States government settled them, helped them with programs. They got settled, and then they started sending for their families. That's when you saw this mass migration into the United States. So it's not like we had option to leave Liberia during those days. Our people was illiterate, most of them, and they had nobody over here to come here or even know how to apply for a visa to come to the United States. So war was the catalyst, Dynast. War was the catalyst.
I just hear the excuses after excuses.
I'm giving you the answer. War was the reason why people migrated to the United States.
So you want like what is the Liberian? What is it? Year of return? I guess that's what you said, Elvis. Like you want other people to come over.
No, again, like I'm saying, like Africa as a whole, we need the diaspora as well. To come back. But again, I would have been fine if the American Liberian would have ruled Liberia for, whatever amount of years. But if there was equal rights for everybody and there was equality and things were equitable, I'll be fine with that. But it wasn't.
Agree.
It wasn't.
Elvis,
so that's the problem.
Elvis, are things equitable now? I've been in Liberia. Are things equitable now?
You like every society, you have the people who are well-to-do and people who are not.
Here we
but go. When I say equity, I'm talking about self-determination. People vote their politician, whoever they vote for, they live with that choice. They know that they made that choice. It wasn't given to them by the Masons in Liberia who had the Freemason who pick our next presidents and who gave out position in the lodges. They don't have that. They pick their own presidents, they pick their own representatives, and they have to live with that choice. That's their choice. That's what they wanted back in those days. That's their choice. So they have to live with it. But it wasn't free. We wasn't free to pick who we wanted back then.
I'm gonna hold you to it. I'm Black American, so I'm gonna visit Liberia.
Does anyone on this panel have investments in Liberia? Because I'm raising my hand too.
I do.
Because
I do. My mother do. We have homes there. We have rental properties. You know, that's the thing. We have economic power when we come to this country that we wouldn't have had in Liberia. So we work hard. We go back home. We invest. We build, homes, or we build farms and things like that. In Liberia, you don't have that opportunity.
Okay, but Elvis, so even after the 1980 coup, the indigenous people still don't have that opportunity. Is that what you're saying?
In terms of
what you just said.
No, you have a lot more indigenous who have upward mobility. You have a lot of indigenous Liberian men who are in the country, who are making money, who are starting businesses, who have access to capital. You have more of those than you had in the 80s. It was closed off to most indigenous. That's what I'm trying to say, Don.
Okay, so
it wasn't an open capitalist system.
So then, still, why to this day do the Lebanese control the Liberian?
I was about to say the same thing.
Exactly. Why? We even had a law, and our government tried to do this thing where most Liberian companies, most Lebanese-owned businesses have to have a 51% Liberian share of Liberian, and they circumvent that whole law because they'll put like a proxy, a puppet person who would have like 51% of the company. The Lebanese technically has 49, but really they're just paying up this person just because they're Liberian. But the government tried to rectify that situation by passing a law where Lebanese can't own, the majority of businesses, certain businesses especially. But they had the money. If you go to Liberia right now as an African American, maybe you've been saving up. You go there with 100,000. You have a great advantage than a native person who barely makes $1,000 a year. So it's about capital. If you have the money, you're gonna rule. Right.
Most of my family has investments like rentals, like you said, but like when I'm talking about investments, and let me answer this quick question. Someone asked if I'm, Liberian. Yes, I'm Liberian. I was born in Liberia, but I live in America most of my life. So I just go back and forth to Liberia to America every now and then. So I know I have like a very American accent. So that's probably why they asked. But anyway, when I'm talking about investments, because most of my family have rentals, I'm talking about schools or hospitals or something
like
that will, yes.
Okay, so Elvis, let me ask you this.
How you get there? I want that. I want the money.
So,
go ahead, Dennis.
So before the coup in 1980, from my understanding, Ghanaians, pretty much Africans all over West Africa, went to Liberia to be educated along with Sierra Leone.
Right.
Why? What happened? Why did that stop?
Because of war.
Okay, so again, can we just admit that when the indigenous population decided to carry out that coup in 1980, that set the country back? I mean, just come on. I mean,
I would say. Well, hold on, Dennis. That's a good question, but there's parts to it. You got to you got to break it down, right? Liberians, most native, they crave for a change of government. They wanted a system that was going to be more fair for every Liberian to have their vote counted as a Liberian citizen. They wanted that. Now, the way in which we got it wasn't the best way. I would admit that to you. It wasn't the best way, But again, a lot of these people who were in power, they had the financial means to come back and have a counter coup. They did. A lot of these ministers, they were millionaires. There were people who had money overseas in Switzerland and places like that. So the fear of those guys who did the coup was, if we let these guys live, they're going to come back and take us out. And we're probably going to be on the more brutal repression than we was prior to this, this attempted coup, had it been an attempted coup. So that was their thought about it. And then, like you said, tribalism, sectionalism, it led down, and eventually we spiraled into a civil war. Now, the Civil War was the biggest disaster that caused us to go all the way back where we are now. Let me disabuse you of the idea that it was only Liberians fighting each other. The people who financed the war was a lot of American Liberians who fled Liberia. Who fled Liberia?
I need
financed the war.
I need proof of that. I need proof that American Liberians were financing the war. I need proof of that.
And even though she's not American Liberian,
okay,
but she's
I want you to repeat that again. Even though what?
and even though she's not American Liberian, right?
Okay.
But she was in that class. She was a deputy finance. Hold on now. What you call a Congo person, right? She was from that class. She was the finance ministers during the time of Doe. And let's not think that only Doe ethnic group was a part of the government at the time. We had American Liberians who also was a part of his government. You know, he didn't just put only native people there. Because again, this is a 22-year-old illiterate, high school dropout who really knew nothing about governing. He only came to power on circumstances. He was the highest ranking military officer, so they gave him that privilege of leading being the head of state. He wasn't even one of the main plotters of the coup. It was mostly Koyonpa. There was another gentleman called Gerbil, which was the actual ringleader, but he kind of fell out because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then these young guys took over. So I would never have voted for Samuel Doe. He's not an intellect. We had PhD holders for my tribe. We had people like George Boland. We had people like Bob Bala who had PhDs, who were economists, and people who had PhD in education. So we have more.
Hold on. How did they get their PhDs before 1980?
Yeah, for example, a person like George Boland, right? It was rumored that he was sent to America on a scholarship by the president, Tolbert, at the time.
Okay.
Right? And he actually was supposed to get a master's, but he came and got a PhD and went back home.
But I thought the argument was that the natives didn't have access to any education and all this other stuff. It's
like saying, out of 100%, you have 5% who have some access to education. And then those people are taken as tokens to put in there and say, well, you see, there's a native man. He's in the government. There's a native man. He's so and so. And George Boland pretty much grew up under them as like a houseboy. You have a lot of houseboys who live with these American Liberian families, and by somewhere, somehow, they got the education. Whatever was happening in the household, we don't know about it, but they got the education. And they had to change their names to these people's names. These are slave masters' names that a lot of us get from just being my grandfather, for example, my mother's father. His last name is Bernard. He's a Bassa man from Grand Bassa County, but he changed his name because he was working for this prominent Liberian family, the Bernards in Liberia right now, which is still in government. They've been in government throughout. But we had to change our names to their names so our grandfather could get an education. And that was a way of social upward mobility to get up there and be able to provide for your people. And you had to swallow your pride and do it. That was just what it was. And people wasn't happy about it, but a lot of them took the opportunity to better themselves. That's just what it was. So, that's it, bro. I mean, I love American Liberians. I love Black Americans, but the history has to be told. It has to be said. I could come on this platform and say, "Oh, everything is good. We have no animosity," but we do. That's why in our country, a lot of people is calling for the TRC, meaning we have to sit down and go back and see what really caused the rift between the two groups of people, and see how we can reconcile ourselves and come together as one people. That hasn't happened yet. So the healing process is not over. That's why you have a lot of people who hold these things in their hearts, like me and other people, and we feel like we have to come to a logical conclusion or have closure on the issue. It hasn't been closed yet.
Well, Elvis, the closure was, I guess, for you guys was the coup, and it just didn't work out.
No, the coup was a symptoms of the problem. Was the result of the symptoms of the problem that was going on at the time. But we still needed to have, especially with the war, we still needed to have a reconciliation time where we can come together as people of all ethnic groups and share where we felt we was wrong during the time. American Liberia has grievances as well against us, and they want to say that. They want to tell how they feel because they feel like they give us a gift of founding Liberia, and we were unappreciative by trying to take them out. They have that grievance as well.
I'm like this.
To hear it,
Elvis. I'm
like this. Go ahead.
Look, check this out.
And after you, we'll pass to Afri, then we're gonna close out because it's getting late. But go ahead.
I'm like this. Look, if y'all want to develop the country, y'all gotta promote it. A lot of people. I'm Black American. I found out about Liberia, but a year, 2 years ago, I didn't even know it was founded, I guess, by Black Americans or whatever. Y'all gotta promote it. Do what Ghana did. Bring some money into it. The world's cutthroat. It's about money. So we could keep babbling, talking about who did this, who did that. Look, if we did it, it's our fault. But it's time to move on and get this money and build up the country. And that's that. And that's most African countries. That's most Black countries. They got to build up. And that's it. Because nobody gonna give you nothing.
Okay, for sure. All right, Afri, go ahead, Afri. We'll close out.
No, I mean, I follow exactly what he said. We just have to build. I know some people say, okay, so, buying a school or, will be too expensive. It's not. I mean, it doesn't have to be if you have a group. A lot of people, a lot of Black people in America, a lot of, West Africans in America, they have, uh, PhDs in their family. I do as well. I myself am pursuing a degree, and so if we put our money together, we can invest in. It's one thing to invest in rentals, but we really have to like build schools, more facilities that the people can use. So, I mean, with that being said, I mean, there's in my family, we have. I think I'd say it is like native Liberians. Sometimes we have to go back and think about our history, you know, especially like especially after the war. I mean, the war is like fairly recent, honestly. Um, Considering, the country, you have to develop the country. So after the war. So we just have to think about investing into Liberia, wherever we are, and like he said, revisit certain things and figure out what happened. And that's all I have to say.
All right, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. Peace.
Thanks, Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.